Right. Call to order the Tuesday, May 23rd regular meeting of Dayton City Council. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Mic up. Do we have any additions or changes to the agenda? We have one.
Yep, there's one item, Mayor and Council, that was provided earlier to you in the day. It is going to be addition of items, and we've been asked to put this back in the I-2 spot because of the way the minute takers do the minutes. It is too hard to have them move it from the last letter to the consent agenda.
We're going to unconfuse it.
Unconfuse it, I guess, from the minute taker's perspective.
Yep.
Please add item I-2, the acceptance of the resignation of Officer Brant Standridge, to the consent agenda, please.
Okay, I need a motion and a second for the agenda.
I'll motion.
Second.
Any more discussion on the agenda? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Need a motion and a second for consent, including the amendment.
Motion.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion?
I had just a couple of question, I guess is all, but on the payment of claims piece, we paid a tax bill of 88 cents and $15.65 to Hennepin County. I'm wondering what that was for.
So before properties go into tax exempt, any outstanding property tax has to be paid. And I believe July 1st is the cutoff date. So sometimes when we get deeded properties, whether it's for park or right of way or whatever, there are a small amount of taxes owed before we can actually get it into that tax exempt status.
Okay, so just clearing off some prior obligation of
Yep.
88 cents.
Yep.
I wonder what that costs us in the county to process.
Yeah, right.
More than 88 cents.
Much more.
That was all I had.
Anybody else?
I've got a question.
Can't be much there.
I've got a question on page 18, Parkstone Contracting. What are biologs?
Yes, Councilmember, the biologs are those black bags that you see at the bottom or next to washaway, so nothing washes out of that area. But they're the black bags that are full of material that are keeping things in spot. So
Thank you.
that's what biologs are. Yep.
Anything else? Okay, we got a motion and a second on consent. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Consent passes unanimously. We are on to open forum. Open forum is limited to 3 minutes for non-agenda items. State your name and address. No council action will be taken. Items will be referred back to staff. Do we have anybody here for open forum?
This is open forum. Is they're talking about a sidewalk? Is that on the
Yep.
agenda?
It's on the agenda, yes.
Yeah, and if I don't, if you want to talk about that and we're talking about that, and I don't like you, go ahead and yell at me. Anybody online? Okay. Okay, staff, consultant, council updates. Zach?
Yes, Mayor and members of City Council. I don't have any updates personally. I will provide a couple updates from Marty in his absence tonight for us to share. Dayton River Road, there has been some areas that have been worked over as they finished up culvert work. And if you've traveled that way at all with local traffic, it does not feel like you could take that at the correct speed limit of 50 miles an hour. So he did communicate that today at the weekly update meeting, and they said that the reason for that is because they wanted to settle first before they put the final 2 inches of lift on. The reason for that is because it's not open to traffic. It's just open to local traffic. So the idea is that they could try to slow down a little bit when they're just local traffic. So it will be added in mid-June prior to the roadway being opened up. We will provide any updates that we get from the contractor and from Hennepin County if we don't see anything from there. Another thing that was asked a few weeks ago was speed limit signs on Pioneer Parkway. Locates have been called in this week, and so the 30-mile-an-hour speed limit signs that go on Pioneer Parkway will be installed this week for the upcoming holiday weekend. If you do not see anything by the end of the week, please let us know. But that is the plan, is to get that done this week. So that's what I have for myself and for Marty. Thank you.
Amy?
We have some new faces in City Hall and continue to get a few more starting. We have another, the accounting position starting this Thursday, and then another planner starting next week. So there's some movement going around in City Hall and getting new employees on board. It's a good thing.
Cool. Where is Marty, by the way? Is he just, you got something going on?
He does have something going on.
He does. Yes, he does.
Okay. Well, then I'll let you know just so you can relay it on to Marty. The sod on 137th on that crosswalk
Okay.
is dead.
That will be part of the punch list of the trail project. That's still open for that reason.
Oh, it is? For that reason? Good. Yeah, the other thing is, I had a couple residents want to know when the even-odd watering is done, and they just want to know when it's done, that we remove the signs. Apparently last time we didn't.
Yeah, we will remove the signs. The reason why it's on is because of the water treatment, or the water tower being worked on. That process should be done this week, and it should be done by the end of the week, so we should be able to remove them for the holiday weekend.
I don't think it ended last season because of the extreme drought and the amount of water that was being used.
That's right.
I think it was
Yep.
a unique circumstance last
Yep, that's
spring,
right. I
fall,
remember that. Okay.
summer.
Chief?
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. Quick update. I had an opportunity to meet with Dr. Tangy, our medical direction for North Memorial. Between now and the end of the year, we'll have variance training so we can implement doing blood sugars and albuterol and some other things. So we'll get that going here so we're ready to go for next year. Our current recruit class, they just finished firefighter 1 last night. They will test on Wednesday, and then they'll move into firefighter 2 beginning of June. Today I had the opportunity to recommend or nominate Kevin Astrup, the Assistant Chief, for recognition for the 94 West Chamber of Commerce recognition, First Responders Lunch. So Kevin was there, and so it was a great opportunity to recognize his work during the interim and then his continued work with me today. So I really appreciate Kevin's work. And then lastly, we have physical agility on Thursday night for new 9 potential firefighters. We did 2 last Thursday. 2 of them did pass, and 1 decided that he didn't want to continue on in the process. So we kind of lost 1 there. And then last but not least, I invite everyone, all those viewing on TV, to watch friendly competition between myself and Administrator Dowd in the physical agility test on Thursday night. So come and root Zach on, because he's not going to win.
What time and where?
Oh, smack talk.
Side bets.
Have you done that thing?
Nope.
Same as Chief Hendrickson, I had the honor to nominate Lieutenant Greg Burstead for the I-94 Chamber Award for his outstanding performance. Also, we're still doing directed patrols in all the areas we get high volume traffic complaints. So you'll see us out there.
I have.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I have no updates.
No updates here.
God.
Yes, a couple. What time is this, Gary? Because my money's going to be on Zach. He's got, what, 30 years on you?
Wait, you've done it already though, right?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
I've done it, yeah. I can do it.
It is-
I've done it through my whole career in about 4 minutes and 45 seconds, so that gives them a rough time of what needs to be completed. So about
Don't ever ask me, because I'll fail for sure.
about 6:30 on Thursday.
6:30 on Thursday?
6:30, cool. Let's see.
I got the pressure, obviously.
I was asked, apparently we have a permit, or an ordinance, that we require a permit for somebody to seal coat their driveway.
I am not aware of such permit or ordinance.
I don't think so.
I haven't heard of that. I don't know.
No, we have a permit for a new driveway for removing the location of the driveway, but not seal
Okay,
coating.
I'll respond back to this guy that we do not have such a thing, so. The other thing is in reference to the sprinklers, it was also brought to my attention that with a band on, we are watering City Hall at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on an 80-degree day.
It's because of the water tower. It's to create the equilibrium pressure within the system has to stay at a certain level. And so when the system feels like there's not enough pressure being used, it will turn the sprinklers on. So it just randomly throughout the day they'll pop on.
Okay.
So that is why.
That's why, okay.
If it wasn't for the
He
water
asked,
tower,
why can't I water my lawn, but yet City Hall
Yeah,
can?
that's not a good look, but I get
unfortunately,
it.
that's the only way we can be able to control it.
My explanation was government can do whatever it wants.
Don't know if that's the answer.
That's all I got here.
None for me.
Got nothing? Dave?
No, I did want to say congratulations on the, on the recognition piece at the I-94 West Chamber of Commerce. I was able to attend that event last year, and I really think it's well done and a great chance to recognize some of the folks that work with you. So I'm glad that that happened.
I just got, I think, one thing, which I'm wondering if we have any update on the intersection prioritization that we talked about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, we have a map together for it and started to list the priorities to them. We have not gone out and identified any of the physical improvements or ailments, if you will, at the intersections. We'll be discussing it more tomorrow. As far as the county process, it may not be a fit to submit anything this year, but we'll be discussing that more tomorrow and unveiling why that is.
When do we have to have that recommendation into the city?
The county.
county,
May
sorry.
31st is their deadline for the cycle, but you have to commit to construction in 24 or 25, which I don't know if we're in a position to do. So, but we'll be discussing it tomorrow. If we do feel we're in the position, we can get something submitted. But otherwise, it might wait until we have dollars identified for specific projects.
So the city's making that decision without council input?
We'll discuss it tomorrow if we want to move forward with it.
Didn't you
But there's
just
no
say you
meeting
have-
between
there's
now
no
and
meeting-
a month.
Meeting between the 31st and now.
Well, we'll discuss it tomorrow and see if we want to move forward. I mean, we would coordinate and could go to council.
So you'll ask us tomorrow in an email if it seems fit.
If it makes sense to move forward. At
Or
this time, it
Thursday.
doesn't look like it does.
Yeah.
But if we are in the position where we could commit funds to a specific project, we probably don't have enough information on any of the specific projects either. So it's unlikely we will request any at this time. If we do, we'll talk to the county and we'll have further discussions as getting a formal submittal in.
I guess to me, this would have been good information to know, because if it comes down to funds, we're paving Zanzibar when these funds could have been used for a light on 81 or a roundabout wherever we need one, instead of.
Yeah, so I do want to provide an update on that one. So the county only let us know 2 weeks ago to the day, I think it was the 9th or the 10th of May, that the deadline for submission for this information was the 31st of May. So they gave us basically a 3-week turnaround to be able to submit anything. It did not provide any information of what the project was or process was
That explains
prior to
that.
that. So that is why the information was not explained to the council previously. It wasn't to withhold information. We didn't know it until 2 weeks ago. So I don't want to blame the county on it again, but I mean,
Really?
poor communication. Well,
I will.
poor communication doesn't help anything when we're trying to make
Yep.
big decisions within the city. And so when we don't get information, I can't pass it along if I don't have it.
It's kind of like closing the river road a couple of years before.
Yep.
You got
Yeah.
it.
So is the ultimate goal to have a list ready so that we're more prepared for next year then? Is that the list? I mean, nothing's really
If
going to
we're-
happen next year, so it'll actually be the following year, if not the year after, to actually hit anything?
If we want to submit anything to them, there's also a cap on what can be requested too, which might make some projects just plain unfeasible anyway.
What kind of caps are we talking about?
Well, for example, a roundabout might be somewhere in the area of $2 to $3 million, depending on land needs. And there is a cap stated on the application or the instructions that says projects should not be more than a $500,000 request.
Oh,
Which means the city would be putting up a very large portion of the project.
So couldn't
Yeah.
we just submit this year that we want all these bad intersections to have stop signs on them? Because that would cost all of them to be less than $500,000 request. They're going to say no to it. I know they are,
If
but we
those
should
were
be doing something.
appropriate requests, then we can go with cheaper options, sure. And some of the intersections may be, if it's just pedestrian control, for example, or signage, or stop bars, or other items.
Hi, that was my question.
Again,
Thank you.
one
It's not
thing-
you, it's the county. I know.
No, and one thing I will point out on it, though, these are for CIP requests. So items such as what I just mentioned are typically safety requests, which is a different pot of money, which doesn't go through this program. So that can be done anytime,
Okay.
coordinated with.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, on to item J, US Solar.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. We have a U.S. Solar representative that had contacted us at the city here to be able to come and communicate with the council and see appetite for solar gardens in town. So we will take it away, U.S. Solar.
All right. Good evening. My name is Luke. I work as a project developer at U.S. Solar. We're a small business based in Minneapolis. We're just here tonight to see kind of how the city council is feeling. If you guys would be open to, considering permitting a 1 megawatt community solar gardens as a primary use within the city of Dayton via a conditional use permit or interim use permit. City staff informed us that the council is looking at land use adjustments this spring and summer, so we just thought it would be at least worth our time to check in with you guys and see how you guys are, feeling about community solar in general. It wasn't me personally. I did get briefed by my company just kind of historically. My understanding is that around 2017, the city had initiated the consideration of community solar ordinance. I believe our company around 2018 sought the approval of a text amendment that would allow for 1 megawatt community solar gardens. I believe there were some reasons cited at that time for preventing the community solar gardens, primarily that they would harm the visual character or bring an overabundance of projects to the city, and just that there was limited support. So again, we just wanted to quickly check in. First, touching on visual character, thought it'd be worthwhile to just point out that 5 years ago, just due to solar panels efficiency, in the past it would take about 8 to 10 acres to do a 1 megawatt community solar garden. Again, because solar panels have increased in efficiency over the past 4 or 5 years, that's come down to anywhere to as small as 5 to 6 acres. So in addition to this smaller space that is now required compared to 5 years ago for community solar gardens, generally speaking, developers have also gotten more, I think, effective at screening community solar gardens via climate appropriate tree selection and other creative methods such as slatted fences. Other thing is that, if you guys were to consider altering the renewable energy portion of the code, there are hundreds to thousands of authorities throughout the country and obviously local here in the past 5 years who have put into place what we believe are thorough and fair community solar ordinances that balance the property rights of landowners, but also ensuring, the visual character of the community is maintained. Second point, I believe there was some concern about the volume of community solar gardens coming to the city. We believe our best estimate at this time is still about a maximum of 2 to 3 community solar gardens that would ever exist within the city. The reasoning for that would be, from a developer's perspective, there's a lot of limitations to constructing community solar gardens. Obviously, the elected officials of Dayton would have agency over any application that is submitted. The applications would have to go through a hearing process and could either be approved with conditions or denied if it didn't meet, the updated ordinance. The city of Dayton also could implement buffer distances between community solar garden projects. And then I think natural limitations would need to be factored in. So electrical capacity, Xcel would only be able to allow so many 1 megawatt community solar gardens to hook up to their substation and their 3-phase distribution infrastructure. And then each proposed community solar garden actually has to go through Xcel's process of their studies and that can take over 3 years. Additionally, there's other land factors such as, natural access to sunlight. Solar developers need flat topography. Obviously, all community solar gardens would require a landowner interested in leasing their land. So, and I think the last important point to make when it comes to the volume of applications is that based on our most updated data, the service territory only covers the western half of the city of Dayton, and there's pretty limited three-phase infrastructure. So we just don't believe that there would be an overwhelming flood of applications coming to the city. At most, we believe there would be anywhere from 2 to 3 community solar garden applications. That would be a total of about 18 to 25 acres. So even a few operational community solar gardens would still allow for hundreds of area residences and businesses the ability to subscribe to the energy that's produced by the solar gardens. So put another way, that the residents or businesses who might not own structures that are suitable for rooftop solar, or maybe they can't, afford the thousands of dollars of the upfront investment for at-home solar panels, in theory, they would be allowed to subscribe to a share of the electricity generated by a local community solar garden. So last thing, just support for community solar. Generally speaking, our belief is that it's slowly growing. Pew Research would back that up. Nearly 7 in 10 Americans, about 69%, say that the United States should prioritize the development of renewable energy resources. We believe that it benefits the local environment. Area schools and businesses are able to subscribe to a portion of the electricity generated, so it can save them anywhere from 5 to 10% on their utility bills. So in conclusion, we really appreciate your time tonight. Your comprehensive plan states that Dayton as a city has high solar potential. We believe that we agree in that this potential could be further realized. If the council were to allow 1 megawatt community solar gardens as a principal use, obviously we can't predict the future, but we don't believe that the visual character of Dayton would be impacted in a negative way. We don't believe that there would be an overwhelming flood of solar project applications, and that's again due to ordinance conditions, electrical infrastructure, and natural land limitations. So to wrap everything up, we're not really hopefully asking for anything revolutionary, just the consideration of amending the alternative energy systems of the city code to allow for ground-mounted solar energy systems as a principal use. Thank you for your time and hearing us out, and if there is any interest in furthering this conversation, we'd be happy to do that at further public hearings.
So you have to be within 3-phase lines? Or close?
Yes, sir.
How close? Like within 100 feet, or can you burrow under a road, or what's the deal?
To answer the second part first, you can go under a road. In theory, you could. But it can get pretty hefty, pretty expensive, pretty quickly. And we call that reconductoring from the 3-phase line. So as a general estimate, I would say probably within a half mile to make it feasible. That's a very general estimate.
So I think, I was on the council when you guys came here the first time, and I think the primary concern was, I think there was one specific chunk on Zanzibar, so it's right by Public Works.
Yep.
And the concern is that it's a main road, or going to be a main road someday, and you still have 25-year leases. Is that?
That's pretty accurate, yes, sir.
That was the concern. I didn't have that concern, but I don't know. If you guys want to ask away.
Is that the main limitation of our current ordinance? I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with it. Is that you need ground mounted?
Well, it would be in my assessment of the ordinance, and I believe the issue would be that it's not allowed as a primary use on a parcel. And so and I actually included this in the presentation. I did create a PowerPoint, and I think it's probably worth just addressing quickly. What is our ultimate motive? Why are we here? And I think first and foremost, it would be obviously if you guys in the future ever were to allow these smaller community solar gardens as a conditional or interim primary use on a parcel. We would obviously want to work with any City of Dayton landowners who would be interested in hosting a garden. Secondly, and Mr. Fisher, maybe you could address this. I believe there may have been discussion that, U.S. Solar back in the day expressed potential interest about hosting a small community solar garden on the Public Works facility. And I believe at that time, U.S. Solar was informed that eventually your plan is to expand the Public Works facility on that parcel. So that would kind of be more of a secondary, motive for U.S. Solar. If that was of interest to the city, we'd be happy to further that conversation as well.
Yeah, there was a little bit of discussion. I think those were roof mounted, though I believe. It wasn't like a farm. It was,
Okay.
it's a big roof, but at the time I think it was just primarily, do you have any customers requesting right now, or is that something you can't really divulge? Or?
Are you saying just referring to like subscribers to a community solar garden? Or
No, anybody.
Interest from residents.
Interest from residents, right?
No one specifically that
Okay.
prompted this.
And I
meeting.
remember, you're right, there was not a lot of opportunities to do this because of the three-phase requirement, because you had to have, at the time, 10 acres. Now it sounds like 5 or so acres.
Yeah, it's pretty limited. I'm happy to share this map at a later date too.
And I think at the time, you guys had some things drawn up as to what it would look like. And I don't know, you guys might be interested in seeing that because that would look good. But
It did or didn't, sorry.
It did.
Okay. I've got no problem with it if someone has land and they want to use it and it fits. I don't see a huge overall issue with it, but I'd like to know more if that's what we're gonna go down.
Yeah, I guess I would too. I think the concept is sound, and so then it comes down to what specific location are we talking about, and that would
Right,
that
and I
would
think-
matter more to me than go or no go.
Understood, and I think that was just the point of the first, coming here for the first time in a long time, is just to bring this to your guys' attention. And again, if there is, reception to at least considering it, we'd be happy to participate in whatever that looks like for the city council or city staff, looking into revising the applicable section of the ordinance. Because you're right, as we touched on it. It's pretty limited in terms of the three-phase as well as the service territory, which, as of this point in time, any interested landowner would still have to be within XL service territory.
So maybe you can clarify a little bit for me. So is it any kind of three-phase in the area, or is it the transmission line that you need to be near?
It would be the transmission line, but it can't be single phase. It has to be three-phase, and it has to be XL Energy owned and operated. So that's
Now, we
Really
had-
shrinks down your service
Pretty
area within the city
significantly.
then.
We did add quite a bit of three-phase recently, so there's maybe a little
So-
bit more area along the river.
Along the river road, yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I don't. You have more questions? Actually, when they're at their peak height, what was that?
Yeah, it's a great question. The answer to that would be, generally speaking, anywhere from 6 to 8 feet. And so I think the primary, you could say, objection that we get is the visual aspect of it. And that's why I mentioned the screening in my remarks, is that I feel like there has been progress over the past half decade in terms of developers kind of now know what works and what doesn't work in terms of screening these solar gardens. If the elected officials, as you guys, were to say, hey, this, the portion of this proposed solar garden would have to be, maybe there's local opposition to seeing the solar garden. Well, if you can't see it, you're not going to be able to hear it unless you're inside the project's fence. So we found that the screening can be pretty effective.
And as I recall, the land underneath is pretty much wildflowered. Is that the deal?
Yeah.
Yep. So exactly.
Because
So
you don't
it's,
want to maintain that. I mean, you don't want to.
it's single axis trackers. So that just means that it's 6 to 8 feet depending on the time of the day. So
Yeah.
the panels will track the sun every day and then come back in the morning, do the same thing over and over again.
it's-
And then pollinator-friendly habitat, at least for our gardens.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what we do underneath. And we are responsible, the company, we have contractors obviously, but they have to maintain the vegetation. And we've had jurisdictions say, if there ever is any, which is, we think is fairly rare, but we've had jurisdictions, hey, there's weeds on X project, you know, get somebody out there and then we take care of it.
I'd be curious to know more, especially just like the area and how much it covers outside of, what would you say it was like a mega,
Yeah, so
megawatt?
a 1 megawatt project.
1 megawatt. So like how many people can get serviced off of that one site, like in the area?
Yeah,
Would
and
just
I
be
think
kinda
I could
organic
probably
growth.
work, if it sounds like this is, if there is interest in furthering the conversation, then I'd be happy to work. We have an origination team as well as, so they're in charge of finding subscribers for the solar gardens, as well as our site selection team. They would be able to do more of a deep dive in terms of, okay, what is the most up-to-date service territory in the city of Dayton that could host these gardens?
Sure.
What does the 3-phase actually look like from Excel's perspective? And, we could come to a future meeting with that information prepared.
I think the biggest issue is the ordinance right now doesn't allow it, correct?
Say that
The
again.
ordinance right now does not allow it.
Yeah.
That's the
That is
biggest
correct,
issue
as a
right now.
primary use. And so really I think the ultimate request, and I don't think there's a ton of urgency, but it would be, is there receptiveness to, allowing a community solar garden as a primary use, ground
On that,
mounted?
yeah.
Are these typically, we would just change that so it's allowed as a primary use? Would we put it under an IUP or some?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of council, we would, it would just amend the ordinance to allow the use either as one of the 3 permitted use, a conditional use, or an interim use, and then you'd specify which districts that would typically fall under. So with the lot size requirements that they would have, that would typically, and the service area of where Excel is, that would typically fall under like an ag district. And we could look at that if they brought the request forward on where it would be appropriate, what would be those conditions that we would add if we looked at doing it as a CUP or an IUP.
Do you have anything, Scott?
I got nothing good to say, so I'll say nothing.
You'll wait for the second meeting that we have with them for that one.
Okay, well, sounds like there's some interest in going forward.
You're
so.
4-1.
Yeah.
I appreciate your guys' time, and I think if it sounds okay, just in terms of next steps, as I mentioned to you, come back with some more in-depth research to a future hearing.
I would like to see what the benefit is to the users in the community and like that aspect, because
Sure.
they're going to be the ones that are going to let us know if they're going to allow it or not. So
Understood.
Well, it just
sure.
feeds
Exactly.
energy in, right? I mean, I don't know that there'd be any.
well, then we get into talks of life expectancy and stuff like that, and then what's turnover after 25 years. What's the industry doing right now? Because a lot of it is, we can get sunlight, but where do you store it, right? So when you have a cloudy week, what's the difference in percentages look like?
Up to Excel.
And that's what I'm saying is like, and that requires some benefits talk. So
Understood. Yeah. The simplest answer, which
Yeah.
I'd be happy to get into at a later date,
yeah,
would be, generally speaking, subscribers to our community solar gardens get a bill credit monthly on their utility bill, XL bill, of it's about 5 to 10% financial savings.
okay,
Which, as you know, some months can be pretty high and some months not so.
right.
Is your concern looks or?
I don't like the looks of them. I just
Okay.
go over to Corcoran. I mean, those,
Drive down
those ones,
94.
They're horrible. Drive down 94. I mean, to me, they're a big eyesore. And I just don't see the value in it. If it wasn't subsidized by the government, they'd never
Well,
make money.
you will get no argument from me as far as if it makes financial sense. It's
Right.
just, I mean, if somebody wants to do that with the property and they're dealing with it, I don't know. I don't know that I have a problem with it.
And we
but-
take enough grief on the substation on 170.
Yeah, well,
What are we gonna do with 10 acre?
this is primarily gonna be ag land,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah.
yeah,
But they're
I
always
get
by
it.
a road.
Yeah,
Put it in the middle of the woods surrounded by 50-foot trees, and then nobody can see it. You know, that's my deal.
all right.
Cool. All right.
Thank you. Think you got
Thank you.
your answer?
Yeah, thank you. We'll go back to the drawing board and, hopefully
And, yeah, talk with staff.
presume this at a later date.
Yeah.
And like I said, the work you guys had done before would probably be good to find. Because I thought there were very good drawings, what you would see from the road. The setback was hundreds of feet, as I recall, so, yeah.
I
And now
can
it's,
probably find that.
I tried to warn you guys, but you just kept digging, so.
Thank you for your time, guys.
Thank you.
okay. Where are we at?
Okay.
Item K.
Good evening, Mayor and members of City Council. I'm putting my Finance Director hat on, and I'll provide you with the first quarter financial report. If you have questions, please ask at the slides so I can make sure I address them as best as possible. Did provide an updated Q1 report. Again, normal operations of the general fund so far. Nothing major crazy. Again, the yellow line is what we look at as of today through Q1. Normal, again, tracking transactions process. We'll continue to go down until we get our first half settlement, which will typically be at the end of June or beginning of July. So that depends on when that spike goes up or down. But, again, normal process so far, and we seem to be tracking fairly well based on historical trends. General fund income statement. So we had quite a few expense comments this time. I'll touch base on those ones because those ones seem to be the most reviewed items. Change in allocation for city admin, which is number 5. It's more or less just an allocation difference of where my time was spent before versus where it's spent now. Number 6, paid the bill first half already, which was a insurance bill that we paid, or an assessment bill that we paid the first half already on, so we will pay the second half later this year. Again, that's a timing issue for budget. Number 7 was under budget, and that was because we received a refund from work paid back in 2019. So that just will be a one-time thing as well, you'll see. Number 8, budgeted for a full-time staff member in planning and economic development. We have not had that position filled yet. That is the community development director position, which was just posted at the last meeting. We also had 2 associate planners planned, or a city planner and associate planner planned as well. And we just hired those 2 staff recently. So you will see some increases on that. We have had a consultant, Landform, which is where Kevin is working from, that we will see a lag in the expenses for that because when they bill us for the next month, we don't see it till the following month. So there's a little bit of a lag with the invoicing on that side.
What are our payment terms with Landform?
Our payment terms, so basically as soon as we get an invoice, we turn it around because they have to be done in 35 days.
It's a 35-day payment.
35-day payment period, yep. And typically they return it back in the next 2 weeks and then it gets back to within a month. So follow the typical process for those invoices. 9, in IT, we've had a lot of one-time payments for memberships and contract services. We've also had quite a few payments for new computers, new monitors, for new employees and new staff. And we've also had quite a bit of just IT needs and help as we moved desks around and everything else. So you'll see some of those things coming through later on in the year. This is through Q1 so far. 10, 11, and 12. 10 is the timing of payrolls. That's related to the fire department. 11 is repair and maintenance. So repair and maintenance has gone absolutely crazy for costs related to public works area. We've had 2 or 3 of the plow trucks gone down this year with significant increases in repair and maintenance. I think one of them was like $35,000 or something like that to fix one of the trucks. And then also we had to fix the skid steer, which was $17,000 to fix the skid steer. It was, I don't know what's going on, but things have gone astronomical.
brutal winter.
For us. You can almost buy a new one, I feel like. And then number 12, work in the parks has not begun yet, so that's why you have not seen
Can you
any
back
large-
up to 2?
Yeah, that less homes, so that is related to licenses and permits and also related to inspections. So we'll be under budget on inspections and expenditures because we have not had as many homes built so far. And also why we have seen less licenses and permits, which is listed in revenues. So those are a direct offset as we have
When
more.
does our bulk usually come in? July, August?
Typically comes in this time of the year. So people are typically pulling building permits around April, May, June in order for them to be able to build homes later on in the year. So they'll pull them early, make sure all their plans and specs are all good, and then start digging on the home. And once those happen, then typically the inspections happen later on. So we'll get the revenues in first, and then the following quarter we'll have the expenses related to the inspections of those.
Do we, kind of looking at you. Do we plot like what a trajectory looks like to see what the next couple months are going to bring?
Mr. Mayor, for the number of building permits,
Yeah.
we don't, just because we don't know. I mean, we have an idea of when they'll come in, but we don't know. I mean, building permits also includes deck permits and basements, and though we don't track those, but we have, where Zach and I have been keeping track of how many permits we've been doing year to date for building permits, whether it's attached or detached, single family or commercial. I can say that we have definitely received more permits April and now especially even in May than we did in January, February, March. Like more in May than we had probably in January through March combined. So,
Okay.
but those wouldn't show up on the Q1.
They do not.
Right, I just want to be kind of.
We track pretty highly the beginning of the summer because then again once they dig a basement, then they can start building the rest of the year.
Yeah.
But once Q3 kind of comes towards the end, then building permits stop, along with fence permits and
Right.
deck permits and all their stuff. Just because by the time they actually get it in, it's ground's frozen or it's too cold
Yeah.
to work.
But it's really the house, industrial permits that are going to carry us.
Yeah, last year we had quite a few industrial or commercial permits, which significantly increased this license and permits number because it goes up drastically when the valuation is $2 or $3 million or $30 million, depending on what piece of warehouse it is. Whereas a house is $500,000 or something like that. Any other questions on the income statement for the general fund?
Number 11, I think you kind of addressed this. I would guess that a lot of this extra stress on the equipment is related to all the snow plowing we did
Likely.
this winter.
Likely. Yeah, again, we paid out overtime, but most of it has to do with repair and maintenance of those large items. And it could be the fact that we were running them almost daily for a couple weeks there, so they aren't made to run every single day. Any other questions on general fund income statement? This is most of the reports.
Mayor and city council line item are kind of over budget. And wondering
Yeah, I don't know what's up with you guys spend all kinds of money. No, that's related to memberships and one-time costs for memberships as we have those. So we pay one time for like League of Minnesota Cities. We'll pay one time for the mayor to be able to be part of I-94 Chamber and other members to be part of like North Metro Mayors and all kinds of other different things. But those are one-time costs and they don't come up again. So that's why you're over budget by $7,000. Most of that is related to actually the League of Minnesota Cities. I think the bill's like $17,000 for that one, for one time a year. Cash balances overall, we're very healthy with the cash balances. I'll touch base on a couple of them just because they look a little odd. Number 2, this one increased and then decreased again. The reason for that is because that's when we pay our debt out of. That's $1.2 million we pay out of that one fund for debt. Fund 360 and 376 had a transfer this year, so you're seeing a change in where the bond funds are at. That is being able to fund future bond payments. Fund 376 should be done this year as well, so that will help out significantly. And that's in 23 that you won't see till the 23 audit. Number 4 is the increase based on not being able to get equipment. So basically we have a ton of equipment that we've budgeted for and have not been able to get or order. I bug Marty almost weekly about why he can't order his equipment and his trucks and everything else, and they won't even take an order right now. It's incredible. I don't get it. But. Number 5, the water fund. So that went down quite a bit at the end of the year. Don't be too concerned with that. That is related because they're in Fund 459. There is $5.1 million negative, and that's where it went in the water fund. So that should be technically $5.1 million more in the water fund at the end of the year. And that is because what 459 is the TIF bond that we're going to approve tonight. So that's the prepayments of all the work done down on West Frenchleg Road, Dayton Parkway intersection, all the stuff that's going to be funded by the TIF bond that we will approve tonight. So that's your reimbursement. Like I said, most of it's been spent. So there's 5.1 million of it. Any questions on cash? Moving on. Water fund, nothing crazy here. Again, normal operations of the water fund, but do want to touch base on a couple of them. Number one, that's because we had an increase in homes from last year, so we have more homes on the system, so now we are getting more revenue, not significantly, but as some. And then number two is related to interest earnings. As everyone knows, interest rates have gone incredibly high, which helps us when we're investing, but does not help us when we're borrowing. And so that is why you will see a significant change from last year to this year. Last year we were dealing with the low interest rates, and then they increased drastically near the end of the year. And then 3 and 4, connection charges are down, and that's related to the building. And then number 3, supplies. We are under budget this year, but last year we were higher based on the supply needs at this time. Any questions so far? Nope. Sewer fund. Oh, I want to point out, water fund, we are actually above on the chart there. We are actually tracking above all of our expenditures, which will be the first time that we ever finish above expenditures. So knock on wood, we are covering our costs in the water fund with not connection charges, with actual user rates. Sewer fund, very similar. Interest rates have again taken a major turn, which has helped us. And then number 2, Met Council charges have increased in 23, and that is due to the number of residents on the sewer system. So that is why it increased from year over year. We're budgeting to be based on last year's numbers. And then number 3 is obviously related to the number of buildings that we have not had yet this year. So it will continue to increase as we go through the year. I don't know if we'll get to the same number that we tried to budget for, which is, I think, 210, 200. The number we budgeted for.
That's right, we jacked it up last year.
Huh?
We bumped it up last year.
Yeah, we bumped it up last year to 200 because we said, oh, we're tracking so high, we shouldn't be budgeting for 120, we should be budgeting for 200 because
Right.
And now
we were at 400 for a while.
Put back down.
Any questions on sewer fund, water fund, any of the general fund stuff that we didn't touch on tonight? Otherwise, I appreciate your time, and if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. Item L, land use proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. So this is a follow-up to the joint work session you had on May 4th, where you discussed land use and the desired changes. Most of that conversation was surrounding the future Dayton Parkway area with the changes that were desired in that area. So from that meeting, the direction from the Planning Commission and City Council joint work session was for staff to define a comprehensive plan amendment process to focus on the land use area for the study area that was defined in that work session with the image included. So it does include the Dayton Parkway area and some surrounding areas going to the north. The 3 steps from that Planning Commission and City Council work session were to finish the transportation plan amendment that is currently underway. Step 2 would be to prepare a comprehensive plan changes in the identified study area, which would include land use, housing, sewer, water, transportation, etc. And then the 3rd step to look at in the future would be to develop a master plan for the study area or a slightly smaller area within that study area, but the future scope and effort would be determined after we completed steps 1 and 2. So just some land use discussion, because I know there's a lot of questions about this from the work session, is that the staging map does provide a way to control how fast the city develops. So all land not shown as current, which is the vast majority of the city, requires a comp plan amendment to become current before they can develop. So this would essentially let the city have a very high level of discretion, as you can say no to any comp plan amendment to staging or land use or any other amendment to the comp plan. This is a way to not allow a premature development, essentially a development without sewer and water services, or one that would leapfrog to grant sewer and water services early. The majority of the study area is outside of the current staging plan designation, so that's not as much of a concern because that staging plan protects the city's discretion to utilize that as a step in the process. The 2050 plan would be completed prior to the staging area becoming current at the end of 2029, with the forecast coming out in 2025 and then beginning work on it in 2026. It would be completed before the end of 2029, before that 2020 staging category would become current at the end of 2029. So, Landform, we did put together a work plan for the land use work. This is just the landform piece of it, so this doesn't include the Stantec portions, which would be the engineering parts, sewer and water and transportation related costs. This would be the full length process to do a comprehensive plan amendment. You'll note it is about a year, because whenever we do a comprehensive plan amendment of this scale, there's a lot of public involvement, a lot of meetings. Materials will be brought forward on each of the chapters to make sure they're consistent with the goals and the vision that council has for the city, with public input along the way to make sure residents are invited and at various open houses to comment on the various changes on the comprehensive plan, and then the cost to then put together the documents for those meetings, and then ultimately to submit to the Met Council for approval of that amendment. The total budget did come in, and this is a first draft at the work, is totaled at $76,000. That could be refined if council wishes to proceed with work on the land use in the comprehensive plan amendment process. An alternative discussion, this was in the staff report, just to provide options to see which way council wishes to proceed, is that there are a number of identified ordinance amendments that are priorities to update within the zoning ordinance. So, the last comp plan was adopted in 2022. A typical follow-up step to that is to do a number of zoning ordinance updates that would then make the zoning ordinance consistent with the comprehensive plan. Those are listed as implementation steps in the comprehensive plan. So staff does have a list running of ordinance updates that are needed. Some of them are larger, some of them are smaller, and some can be done while land use changes are underway, but there are some where the land use changes should happen first before you amend the ordinance, such as changing districts around or looking at changing standards within districts. Some of them, like garage sizes and the parking code, could be done while a land use change is underway because they are independent and don't really rely on that land use connection. So just, noting that some of those would be put on hold while land use changes would be completed. So the goal of the meeting is for City Council to provide direction on how you would like city staff to proceed with either the land use changes or an alternative path. So with that, I'll stand for questions if you have any for me or for Zach. And I can pull up any of the maps too on the slides.
Anybody?
I have a question. And it triggered when I heard the $76,000 number. Is this something that a community development director would be able to handle or not?
Yes. It depends, obviously, when I say yes, I should preface it. If we hire the right one,
Yes.
yes.
I was going to say.
If we just hire anyone, maybe not. But if we hire the correct one, yes, that is something that the community development director would be able to do.
I think my question was more general in looking through the packet, and you don't have to go to, but it's on page 48, that I was curious, or just to confirm that, because I've had this awakening, I guess, about how we figure out what 3 per acre is for residential stuff, because none of the lots, you put 3 lots together and you don't have an acre in any of the developments that I've seen. But it includes a bunch of other stuff. But I want to make sure that the things that can be excluded from that are kind of listed out on that page. things like natural water bodies, public parks, arterial roads, and so on. And I want to make sure that we're excluding all of those things when the developers are, saying that they're complying with the 3 per acre proposal or whatever they're, how they calculate their final number. That's where the discrepancy has been for me. I can't come up with enough acreage to match the lots that we're getting, the 50-foot lots and so on. So that's my question is to confirm that we are using all of those exclusions that are able to be used in that calculation.
Thank you, Mr. Vachon. Yes, so we just did the plat monitoring program, which is where you report that data for the past year. So for all the final plats that were recorded in 2022, we reported in 2023. And so with that, a developer, when they come in with the final plat, is required to provide an exhibit that shows where they're taking out water bodies, where they're taking out wetlands and wetland buffers, where they're taking out arterial roadways to show how the calculations are achieved. And that'll give you your gross acreage, and then you take out each of those acreages for those exclusions to provide your net acreage, and then you do the calculation to find the number of units per acre through that, and then that is the final calculation that we then provide to the Met Council. And we have to provide the exhibits that are showing that calculation with the reporting data to the Met Council. So we are taking out all of those exclusions to reach. And some of the developments, they do vary in range. So each final plat may not be right at 3 units an acre. Some will be at 3.2, some will be at 2.8 or 2.6, and some will be at 3.5. But that balance is what helps us hit that 3.0.
Do we typically
Or less if
see
it's
those?
less.
Do we typically see those come up at final? Because last 3 or 4 preliminary ones came in like 2.8, 2.6. So they tend to bump up once everything's cleaned up, so to speak.
Correct, yeah. The difference between a preliminary plat estimation and the final plat, on what you'd see, the numbers typically do go up because then they know they have final alignments for all the buffers and everything like that. So it's usually a rough estimate of preliminary plat, but then once they finish their construction drawings, it usually bumps up because they have more buffer or they have the full design for the roadway. Or
So is Met Council just keeping track of these? Or my understanding is the requirement from the Met Council is that we plan for 3 per acre on average. Doesn't have to be on every development though. So if we
Correct.
give them one that's at 2, do they spank us? What do they do?
No, so the last reporting one, we weren't at 3.0 overall. We were slightly under that because we had a couple developments that came in at more of the 2.3 to 2.5 range, and then a couple that came in above, and that average was more at about a 2.8, 2.9 rough average. But they're looking over the course of the development as the city as a whole. So every year they'll look at it and they'll put it in the database with past years. But as long as we are, and knowing that our low density residential category is not where we're going to have the density, which is all of the plats we reported this last year. So when things come in at that medium density and high density, then that would bring the unit average up.
Right, but then they start paying attention? Or at what point does their finger start pointing at us and say, straighten up?
Well, right now, from all of what we said we would do, we're hitting all our goals. Low density residential doesn't have a density that needs to meet 3 because that category has a 2 to 5 range. So even if we report in a year and it's well below, I've never gotten to the point where I guess we would have to develop a majority of the city where they expect us to then hit 3 units in an acre and be at that threshold. And if we're not, then we get the talking to, I guess. Never gone down that path. I've never had us not hit because every development has to come in within the range. And if we're in the range, we're meeting our density calculations that we said we would in the comprehensive plan because we planned for 2 to 5 in low density and 5 to 8 in medium. And so if we developed all of our low density first, we would be below 3 units an acre likely because there could be a lot that came in at the 2 units an acre. But then once we develop medium and high, it's expected then we would then pull it up because those natural densities are within that, going to have to fall within that range.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just surprised to learn that we count all of the local streets and ponds and so forth into that calculation as things that can be included, and that's why when you add up 3 lots, you don't get to one acre by the lot size. It's just, I guess it is what it is. It's in their rules, but it's sort of an illusion to me. If you're counting all of that into the calculation, then the lots can be a good deal smaller. You know, and I don't know, it's just different from, I guess, from my past. You know, when you're looking at a building lease, you look at net rentable square footage, right? You don't count all the common areas and all of that stuff into that calculation. And so this is just different. And why wouldn't it be at the Met Council?
Yeah, I don't have a good answer
But I
to
think
you
it,
on why the
I think it
that's the way the
artificially
formula is,
puffs
but
up
that's the way it
you know, what
is.
we think there's 3 houses per acre, and it's not like that at all in the real numbers, or what I consider the real numbers.
Anybody else?
Got nothing to add, no?
Nothing? Okay.
We were looking for direction.
I was going to say,
We were looking for direction, please.
Find that person.
So when we had, Zach, when we had talked last week, we had mentioned like laying out different options on a slide. Did we end up doing that to prep for this meeting or no?
No, we didn't
Okay.
have enough time to grab that.
Okay.
Sorry.
So we're looking to whether or not to proceed with
Right.
the land use.
I can
Yeah.
provide some options if the council doesn't have like clear direction tonight. I can work with Kevin to get some different options of different items we can do moving forward. And I can provide that in the weekly update this week, and you can provide feedback if you'd like to do that process. So
Yeah.
I don't have clear direction. But
plus I push it out a
Yeah.
little bit. So. When's that rec go out? Or that,
community development director
Out
position
there.
ends
oh boy.
in the spot.
It's on the homepage of our website.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, it's out there.
Well,
It's just-
okay.
I think
But
it's beginning of June is when the.
Okay.
That's when.
Yeah, why don't we,
Pretty sure.
is everybody
By the next
okay
meeting,
with
it
that? Why don't we
I
just
am.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay.
do that,
We,
expand a little bit?
Kevin
If
and
you
I
know
will
a great
provide some-
candidate to apply, please encourage them.
We got one.
Throw
When-
your name in
So
the
if you
ringer.
know a great candidate to apply, please encourage them to do so.
When did it open?
It opened
What candidate?
Last
last Thursday.
Last Thursday.
Any candidates yet?
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Good.
Okay. All right.
If I may, just for clarity for Zach
Sure.
and I to work, is the desire, the direction to move forward with, like, wait and see with the community development director position to bring something back following that closing and having that be evaluated? I just want to know so that we can plan ahead to know when we should have something back for council. And if the desire is to then look at something different than the proposal, the draft work plan for the land use changes, if it's more the desire to go with the ordinance amendments. I'm just trying to get a sense of which direction.
Well,
I was going to say, I don't know how big the ordinance changes are. I know that some of those pop up all the time. But like you said, their independent parking is one that always shows up, and I kind of wonder why we have a number anyways. But
So getting more of a comparison to see how much those ordinance amendments would
maybe,
cost
yeah,
versus the land use amendment, is
maybe we
that kind
can
of?
knock that out early or something.
well, we just hired 2 people, right, in planning. Can they work on that kind of stuff, or do we need to do that through land?
Well, they might not have the experience and expertise to be able to provide the information, but they could probably work on gathering information and kind of getting that background.
Some of those are somewhat, I think, smaller. We could probably.
Some of them are, but they need to have they need to make sure that they have the expertise and the information behind it to make sure that they're making it, when we bring something back to council, we want to be, here's what options are, not just, just what was easiest to find,
Sure.
basically.
Yeah.
I mean, are there any ordinance items that are like we're chomping at the bit to get changed tomorrow?
No, the ordinance items are more or less for staff to be able to
Yep.
more easily operate based on what the council's direction is. Again, it's not like we need it tomorrow, but it's easier for us to provide updates and provide better information to residents and future residents if we have all of our ordinance updated and ready to go versus, from 1978 or whatever some of them are from.
Forever.
Wasn't I getting the red light, green light map thing? I didn't get that in.
What?
What?
Red light, green light.
Yeah, we talked about this at the joint meeting where we were going to draw some stuff out.
Or you wanted to draw the map. You wanted
a coloring book,
You want
that's
the
right.
coloring book.
Oh,
I'll write that on my list.
Well, so the
Thanks.
planning commission is going to kind of,
Yeah, that's at the
There,
next
yeah,
meeting, yep.
yeah.
yeah, they're going to do some preliminary work. So yeah,
The position is posted until June 6th.
okay.
I don't know.
So-
To me, it doesn't matter if we wait 2 weeks. I mean,
Yeah, probably not.
No, I don't think it does either, and it seems like we've got some variables here with how that hiring process plays out. Well, and just the timing on the whole thing, whether it makes sense to be doing it or to wait till we're gearing up for the next plan amendment, the next plan.
If we were to redo the entire comp plan today, what would that cost us approximately? Trying to figure out how much of this 76 that's on there is like transferable versus like, oh, it's 100 to everything, but it's
So-
76 to this small little section. That doesn't make sense.
So there is some inherent overlap because a lot of it is the public process part of it, just going
Yeah,
through the
exactly.
meetings and having
Yeah.
the open houses. That's still going to be required. You're going to have to duplicate there. I mean,
you're
that's
gonna spend that
definitely
twice.
a double up. The updating the document part of it wouldn't be an overlap because you'd have the updated document for the next comprehensive plan. So you wouldn't have to change the maps and change the text and change the document itself. But then again, going through the Met Council process of getting an amendment approved is another double because with the 2028 plan, you would then have to go through that same process again to get it approved through the Metropolitan Council, and it's just preparing the items to get it approved and the staff reports and things like that. So there is some overlap between the two processes.
I mean,
because
half that number is public engagement and process. So
Yeah,
if you're telling me
because-
all that's duplicated work we're going to have to do in 2 years anyways, I'm
Most of
hard pressed
it.
to
Correct.
spend the money if we're going to have to redo it in 2 years regardless of what we do.
Because it's check-ins to make sure that when staff prepares
Yeah.
the maps and the reports and the text and everything, that's what planning commission and council wants to see. So it's preparing those packets for those meetings. It's again the open houses for the public where you have to prepare the documentation and the presentation and do everything like that, send out public notices and have all those meetings. That is a high cost, and that's inherent when you're changing a policy document such as the comprehensive plan, where it's the vision for the city, so you've got to have the city's input on it. So there's a lot of
So is it
prep time
task
for
1
those.
and 3 then, it looks like based on your description, are both be duplicated? So you're talking
Yeah,
46,000
mostly.
of the
Yeah.
of the 76.
of the 76.
Yeah.
And that large area plan is probably going to take a while anyways.
Right, that's what I'm thinking about too, is that we've got more or less defined a study area for master planning effort, and we're not going to have, I mean, I think that will drive some zoning changes and use changes, as that progresses, that we make, we do this now and then it becomes obsolete as a part of the natural course of that master planning effort. It seems like we might be a little early on taking this step.
You mean
I'm
with
happy
master
to.
planning or with the?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, with
Yep,
making
that's
the land use amendment without that information from the study.
correct. Yeah, I don't know that we should go forward. Once we get the expensive part, which seems to be not the work-related part, I think we should, think twice about pushing that through. But all the work up to then, we should probably be
Yeah,
not necessarily, pushing that really hard, but
moving it forward.
moving it forward.
Yeah. I'm okay with that philosophy too.
But that final administrative part or the other churning seems to be almost like wasted energy, especially if we're going to try to get a comp plan, a
On time.
2050 thing through. That starts in 2025, 2026?
2026.
2026.
We could start at 2025 as soon as we get the transportation stuff. I mean, we could have the conversations beforehand.
We can't submit it until
We can't
2026.
yeah.
Is that the deal?
Well,
With Met
so
Council.
you're supposed to submit it on the 10-year cycle, so it's supposed to be 2028, but you can do early submissions. So
Right.
you could submit something in 2026 once you've got the 2025
But
forecast.
it's going to take us a while to get to where we can hand that over to the Met
Correct.
Council.
Isn't there Met Council calculations that we don't get until 2025 that we have to
Yes,
use?
correct. Yeah, the forecast that you have to base your 2050 plan off of those forecasts come out in 2025, and you have a chance to review them and appeal them if necessary if the forecasts seem really out of whack. But once those are finalized, that's what you then base your 2050 plan on.
I wouldn't be surprised if we don't like those.
It's not uncommon that you push back on some factors within
They've been under
forecasts.
Under forecasting, and my guess is they're going to overshoot it this time, but we'll see.
So does that help add better direction, or are we in the same place we were before?
Yeah, I think I mean, I kind of have an idea.
Yeah, hearing the discussion, the conversation is very helpful for us to bring back something that is then helpful for you guys to.
I'll provide
make a
something this week
decision.
on the weekly update, and then if you could just reply back,
Sure.
that'd be great. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, on to item M, TIF bond.
Mayor, members of the City Council, we have Jason Arsvold from Ellers here to present our sale of the TIF bond, award of it, I should say. We did get the final numbers, which are in front of you today, which is the sale report that was provided by Jason this morning. So please take it away.
All right. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Jason Arsvold with Ellers, and as Mr. Dowd said, here to talk about the sale results from the bond sale today. So as you know, we've been talking for some time about preparing for this bond sale, primarily to fund West French Lake Road and the intersection out there as well at County Road 81. The last time we spoke was April 11th. We talked about what we call our pre-sale report, where we outlined the proposed sale of the bonds, the structure, some of the details about how the TIF was going to be sufficient to cover all of that, the proposed interest rates at that time, and got direction to keep moving forward. And so since that time, we've been working with staff to bring forward the sale tonight. One of the things that was involved in that intervening period of time was going out and actually having a rating done by Standard & Poor's. All of your bond issues have been rated by Standard & Poor's, and that was a great process. Staff was well prepared for that. Discussion with Standard & Poor's, they came back and affirmed the city's AA rating, which is 2 notches below the highest rating that they assign. That report is actually in that sale day report that Mr. Dowd referred to. I think if you look at that, it says a lot of things that I think reflect well on both the council's policies and the staff. It highlights the strong economy in Dayton. It highlights the strong management of the finances and the city of Dayton. Those are your policies and the staff's administration of all of that. Talks about strong budgetary performance. And then all those things are went into the mix to come back with that AA rating. That's helpful because the better your rating is, the better your rates are. And I think that was pretty well reflected today when we took bids. This was a competitively bid bond sale. So we put it out to the marketplace and let anybody who wanted to bid on the bonds. There were 4 bidders, which is a fairly typical number of bidders. The low bidder in this case was Baird out of Milwaukee, and the rate that they proposed was 3.523. Now, when we discussed this back in April, the rate that we were projecting at the time was about 3.77, and we had built in a little cushion just to get us to the day of sale, not knowing where the market was going to go. So we're about 0.25% under where we thought in that initial pre-sale report and what we had built all of our assumptions around. And so that means that we're going to pay a little less every year in annual debt service. So if you remember, we talked about the TIF revenue being sufficient to cover about 120%. We're up to about 122, 123% now coverage, which is a better spot to be in. So that was great. The other bids were all very close. So the low bid was 3.523. The highest bid was 3.5841. So they were all very tight together. And what that tells us is we got a really good indication of where the market actually is today for selling of bonds. We didn't get a big, huge disparity in the bid. So that was all good. The other thing to note is that part of this included a premium bid. So what that means is that the buyer of the bonds actually paid more than the face value of the bonds in exchange for higher individual annual coupons. And so when that happens, what we do then is we reduce the size of the bond. So we're actually going to borrow less, but we're going to get the same amount of proceeds to pay for the project costs. And in that way, we keep our annual debt service lower than we had initially anticipated in that way. So the change then is if you look at this, the new bond amount, when you got your packet, we were up over 6.2 million, right? Assumed par amount. The revised resolution that you have there that came with the sale results today, we're down to 5,950,000 is the bond size, but we get the same amount of proceeds. So that's kind of how that works. And that all evened out again, led to better overall annual debt service. Provided things continue on as we anticipated with the TIF revenue, we'll have more than adequate revenues to cover that. You'll be able to reimburse, as Mr. Dowd said earlier in the financial update presentation, that fund with these proceeds, and then whatever's left over, use the proceeds to pay for project costs. So with that, I'm happy to stand for any questions, but the action tonight would be there's a resolution that would award the sale of the bonds. If you approve that, we'll go back and then work towards a closing that is now currently scheduled for June 15th. That's when your receipt of funds would happen. So happy to answer any questions or go into more detail about the sale.
I have one, and it's not specific to this.
Sure.
I mean, it's in your report, and it just struck me, so I want to ask about it. But on page 12 of your report, page 91 of our packet, it lists the largest tax-paying parcels and taxpayers in the city, and the second largest taxpayer in the city is incomprehensible to me. It's CIVF V1-MN1W01- et cetera, LLC, and I have no idea who that is.
Mayor, members of the council, I think you must be looking at the official statement document. Is that what?
That's correct.
In the packet? Okay. Sure. So, yeah, so those come from, a combination of sources to populate that document, the county and or third-party service providers. It's an LLC probably that owns a large, I'm guessing, industrial building in town. Don't know which one that is. I couldn't tell you offhand which one it is, but we could certainly figure out which one it is.
Yeah, and it's not really related to what we're talking about, but maybe you could, or Zach could get that answer for me. I'm just curious who's paying our tax bills.
Yeah, I think there's probably a PID number associated with that that's not shown in that offering document that we could, let you know who that is.
Thank you.
Yep.
Do you need a motion in a second?
Anybody else?
I do have an answer for you. It is King Solutions.
Okay. Well, that makes sense.
Thank you.
That would make sense.
And just to, for whoever's making the motion, just, it's that lower bond amount, not the one that's in the packet, but the one that's in the resolution, the 5,000,009.
950, right?
Yeah.
5,950, yeah.
I'll make a
Get to
motion.
the resolution.
I'll make a motion that we approve the sale of the funds.
Oh,
I'll second it.
Okay, we got a motion, Scott. Second, Matt. Any more discussion on this? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, sir.
Be nice to just write a check, but we can't.
Oh,
That amount.
we did.
Pretty
but
much just
We
did,
also
yeah.
sold the bond to cover it. Okay. Item N. Deerwood.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. There have been discussions about potential safety improvements being constructed on Deerwood Lane, generally between 129th Avenue, which is County Road 121, and the Hayden Hills development to the north. Excuse me, it's about a third of an acre in distance. The installation of a sidewalk along the east side of the property has been discussed, and that's what's been looked at to date. And there's also been some discussions or suggestions related to streetlights being installed along the property, or along the project. So here's just a depiction of what was improved, or proposed. This is in your packet as well, the same figure. So again, a 5-foot concrete sidewalk along the east side, connecting to the existing sidewalk within the Hayden Hills development. In this case, the north is to the right. And then the street lights, what was originally discussed and what we got pricing for was Cobra style, the larger overhead street lights, and we had Connexus give us an estimate for 4 of them. Thinking they'd generally be located as shown on the drawing here.
This is a north-south road, correct?
It's a north-south.
Okay.
Yes. North is to the right.
Okay.
Yep, it's rotated to the right.
So I'm curious why the streetlights are on the opposite side of the road from the sidewalk.
Originally, it was proposed to just do the streetlights, and just because there's less on that side, no real reason, it could certainly be flipped to the other side. That's just what was shared originally at a concept level with Connexus, and that's what they gave us the pricing on. I would suspect it would be comparable pricing on either side.
So, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I spoke with some residents. A lot of them are not keen on the lights. They love the sidewalk. So I think I'd kind of want more. I'd almost want to talk to all the residents to see where they're at with the lights, because their concern is the same kind of concern we had on Pineview, where it's suddenly no longer nighttime.
Sure.
But yeah, that's my thing on the lights. But and I have a few questions on the sidewalk too. But I can wait a little bit.
What's the spacing of the lights on Pineview? It's way closer than this, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, way closer.
Yeah, I
Yeah, these
think-
are about 440 feet apart.
Okay.
But this is comparable
these
to
are-
Hayden Hills, how the lights are spaced there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are 350 to 550. I think Pineview is either 100 foot or 125 foot.
About 120.
25.
I feel like it's
It's 100 or 125, I think. It was the manufacturer's recommendation. for
But they were
Pineview.
weaker lights too.
Okay.
That is true, much less spread on them.
I think they
So
wanted
the lights
beam
were-
to beam too, as what the idea
Until you
was with
turn
that
them
one.
on.
Yeah.
The lights that are being proposed are the same ones that are going to basically be in Hayden Hills. So they'll be the same that the residents right next door have, correct?
Yeah, I think part of the concern I heard was that a lot of the homes there are ramblers. They're
Yep, I got the
large
email.
windows in the front. And yeah.
My question on this is, I know this is bid for a 5-foot concrete sidewalk. And our ordinance says that the residents are going to maintain that sidewalk in the wintertime.
Yeah.
So we're going to ask these guys to go out there and shovel that sidewalk.
If we're here, that's great.
Correct. Oh, okay. And I question why we're doing concrete and not why we're not doing a 6-foot asphalt trail. To me, because we can do it for a heck of a lot less money. We just put that trail on Pineview for 100 and I want to say it was 150, 60.
Something like it was. 100.
Yeah.
We brought that up last time. You had some input on that. I don't remember
Yeah,
what it was. But
just the space constraints. So they
Space.
can't get a paver that narrow. So usually, if they bring in a smaller paver, which they should be able to do, they often
They
don't.
have such a thing.
They can get it down to 8 foot generally.
Okay?
They'll usually try to bring in the road ones, and the narrowest they can get is about 10.6, and they'll.
so what happened to all the pavers they used to use for when the trails were 6? They just,
And they're still the people that do driveways still use those.
oh, okay.
But it's usually road crews that get these jobs, and then they bring the smallest they have on
So,
the site. So
yeah,
it often does drive the cost up to bring out a driveway contractor on a larger main line. Mostly space constraint in this case, though. Even the 5 foot, we have to wiggle it a little bit to avoid some trees and other obstacles, I'll say, in the boulevard. The trail would have more impact. There'd be tree removals, less snow storage for public works to utilize. Narrower boulevards, which is a little bit tougher to get grass to grow if you only have a 3 or 4 foot section.
Well, if you put a trail, why not have it right on the road? And otherwise,
You can do that as well. You can push it right to the back of curb.
right.
You can have it that way. Usually just a safety concern, and then again for the snow storage. So instead of Public Works pushing the snow from the street onto the sidewalk and then the resident being responsible for that, having the boulevard, Public Works uses the boulevard for storage, and then the resident just removes the snow without that additional
Well,
amassing.
most of these lots are pretty good size, and I can't imagine half of them people are not going to shovel that sidewalk in the wintertime, where Marty's got the equipment to snow blow all of it.
What
So-
happens in Hayden Hills?
They take care of their own because it's sidewalk.
They take care of their own?
Yeah, they take care of their own,
Or is
because,
that part of their HOA that it gets cleared? No.
Well, I can't speak for them. I can tell you what happens in our HOA. The single-family homeowners are required to take care of their own sidewalk. And so you have two things that happen. They either don't get taken care of because they're gone or whatever, and then people get upset 'cause it's not taken care of. Or they do get taken care of and the snow gets blown back over them anyways, people still get upset. So it's kind of 6 one way, half dozen the other on that.
Yeah.
The one thing I will call out is this is connecting up to a sidewalk. So to build a 8 or 9, 10-foot wide path that goes down to 5 feet, I wonder too if that is worth it or not to have it connect up that way. So that's another piece that if we're trying to keep that, also to keep it consistent looking, which is important. And I will also add that if the city takes care of it, the city will get complaints of why isn't my path plowed yet, because they don't prioritize the path, which I don't say they should prioritize the streets. But someone's going to complain whether the city takes
Regardless.
care of it or whether the homeowner takes care of
Well,
it, one way or the other.
If you have the homeowner take care of it, there's more complaining, because it will not be taken care of anywhere near what Marty's gonna be able to do.
And I think we are
I
responsible.
mean, Marty does a
for it.
pretty nice job. Most of these paths are
Yeah.
cleaned and opened, the next day, or certainly within 2 days.
Depending on how much snow we get, yeah. I will say some people will find a reason to complain about the snow being on the path one
Well,
way
you're
or
never
the other.
gonna, no matter what we do, we're not
Correct.
gonna make
Yes.
everybody happy all the
Yeah.
time.
So we're responsible for that north side anyways. I don't
The
know.
north
I
side.
that's always been my
North
hang up with
side.
sidewalks. Huh?
North
What,
side.
north side?
Well,
On the north end,
On the north end.
within the Hayden Hills development, that is a city-owned outlot.
yep, the
Oh.
outlet and then along
The
the
outlet.
park.
But not all of the sidewalks within that development, just
No.
the portions that the city owns.
No,
Oh, yeah.
but I've always had a heartache with residents having to take care of the sidewalks because they don't. And in this case, it's on our right of way, right?
Yes.
I've never understood that either. How we put something on our right of way and then say, you take care of this.
What the same argument goes for the yard there. Technically, their yards
What
right
yard?
now are in our right of way, and we don't take care of it. We make them take care of it, correct?
I don't know
They
that we
cut that
make them,
grass,
they
yeah.
just do.
Exactly.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, but if they don't take care of it and let it grow, they're going to get an
Yeah.
astrogram from the community service officer for the grass being 6 feet high. So
Maybe,
Over 8 inches tall.
Probably not.
but I can tell you, it's a lot easier for them to mow that little bit
Yeah.
than to go out in the middle of winter and shovel that thing.
Oh, yeah.
It's just always a,
Do
and
we-
if we put a trail in, then somehow it's ours. If it's cement,
What's the difference?
it's theirs. If it's pavement, it's ours. And
I
it's
don't know
on
if
our
that's- I don't know
property.
if that's directly pavement versus asphalt, or pavement versus concrete. I think it's more like the width.
I think it's
width
the
of it, yeah.
designation of a trail versus
Right.
sidewalks.
But my understanding
Well,
was
you-
that was the designation.
because they drive pickup trucks down those with plows
Right.
on them. They don't have a special piece of equipment. So if the
Yeah.
trail is not wide enough, they can't get the truck on
Correct.
it.
That's the
However,
issue.
Yep.
for the excluding the lights, this is a $300,000 project with the lights.
Yep.
Roughly, give or take. However, the $100,000 plus that you're gonna save by going trail, you can buy whatever equipment you need to take care of it. And then you have that equipment.
You won't
There's
save
no way.
nearly that much.
Oh, yeah.
No way.
There might be incremental. Excavation is the same. It'd actually probably be more because you'd need more base under it, so you're taking more material out. All the driveway patching is exactly the same.
If we build an
basement
8-foot trail, they have a paver that would
Even
make
if
a
we were
6-foot
able to
trail.
go down to a 6 foot, we could run numbers and it might be
Yeah.
incrementally smaller, but
What-
I don't suspect it'll be.
What made
substantial.
Pineview then so cheap relative to this?
That trail?
Yeah, just because it was
Big open area helped it.
flat out.
I don't remember the distance of that one, if that was comparable. I think that's a little bit less than this.
Is it?
It's about
I
that.
think-
Close.
It could be. I want to say that one was, yeah, I won't even guess because I'll be
Yeah.
wrong.
Okay.
Do you want to open it up? So
Yeah,
that's
I
what I
was
was
gonna
pointing
say,
at.
if you
Yep.
guys want to come, just give us your name and address and,
Brad Burke, 12940 Deerwood Lane.
Go back to the map.
Oh, I'll go back
How much
to
of that are you taking of the property here?
it'd all be completely within right away.
From here to there?
It'd be completely within the right of way, but as
Well,
far
I
as,
know, but I'm just saying, how much is it?
as far as distance, there are some exceptions because we did our best to avoid tree
So all the
removals or
trees that we
others.
got planted there are gonna be
So
gone?
probably 5 to 6 feet between the back of curb and the edge of sidewalk, and then the sidewalk is an additional 5. So probably about 11 feet behind the curb.
I'm just saying, so all the trees we got planted there are gonna be gone.
The intent was to avoid all of the trees. I think we have a couple close conflicts
Wasn't
with
this
it.
supposed to go down John Quill when they built that Taj Mahal?
John
golf
Quill is
course?
considered an on-street trail, so it's the street use for that connection.
I'm not for it. Who's liable for it when it's done? If kids get hurt on it?
It's city
Homeowners?
right away, so the city is,
For sure.
yeah, it's city property.
So
Now,
then we
does
don't
it-
have to take care of the sidewalk.
That's a violation of ordinance and
Yeah,
code,
so
so
then if we don't shovel, we get tagged.
that's my understanding of it, if the code was
I'm against
enforced.
it. Definitely don't want streetlights. There's enough light pollution now that it's,
Now, does it matter with the trees if you push this right up on the road, if it happens? 'Cause
Again,
that's gonna help his trees.
I don't remember, it's either 1 or 2 trees that were in potential conflict that we think
Okay.
we could avoid. So
And that's going with
we've
this
already
line.
considered that, and
Right.
that's wiggling the trail through, if you will. or
So
the-
right now, the rough plan you have, we'll do a little bit of this just to get around the
in
trees.
several spots to avoid. I didn't do the work myself, but if I remember, there was like a planter area or something, and we just figured let's make it as less impactful as possible. So we would just avoid to the extent we can.
The other thing, when you sent letters out, I didn't get,
Okay. We can make note of that.
What location are you at on that map?
well, in the middle.
Are you on the left-hand side or the right-hand side of the road? Are you
I'm
on
on
the
the
east or
side
the
where the
west?
sidewalk's going, whatever side you wanna call it.
Okay.
We'll call it
Maybe
sidewalk
the east
side.
side.
That would be
And I
the
did
east
go down
side,
that
yeah.
whole road and pick every single person, including the landowner and the renter, so I tried to do my best to be able to get every person, so that is my fault. If you did not get one, because every single homeowner got one, I think I sent out 30 letters.
No,
And there's
I
only
didn't
like
get one.
26 homes there.
If it wasn't for my neighbors, I wouldn't have known about it.
Jason, do you know how many trees clearly have to be removed?
I don't remember what it was. I know the individual that put the preliminary layout together, and we did this just off aerial photos. He did do a drive-by to verify. I think there was 1 or 2 trees, and I think we were comfortable. We could probably
Manage
avoid
our
them
village.
without too much root intrusion.
Oh,
But
I think
You're
we
not
can
planning
avoid
on
all
taking
of
any trees.
do we have trees?
Planning. I'm
Do
gonna
we
use
have trees in this section right here?
Yeah.
6 feet off 6 feet from the curb is there trees?
It might have been on the backside of them. I know when we laid it out, we tried to minimize the trees. I don't have the itemized breakdown of the costs of how many were included in there, if any. There is some retaining wall and some fencing that has to be modified as well through a portion of it.
Does anybody else want to come? Just your name and address? And
Dennis Baker, I'm at 11420 131st, I'm on the very north of that. I got a big portion there. First of all, I'd like to know why this is being put in.
I think the initial concern was around safety,
Safety for who?
residents,
What about the rest of the project?
rest of,
That whole project doesn't, we're the only ones that are getting a sidewalk. This whole project doesn't have a sidewalk.
I think the
You
feedback.
mean neighborhood when you say project?
Right,
Yeah.
Yeah.
was that this road became much busier because it used to be a dead end at the golf course essentially.
Right.
And so now it's a,
When I went to the city hall here, when they were planning on putting a sidewalk in along that north end there, which you see, connecting into the Hayden Hills and up to the 121st, I went in here and I told them, I said, I really don't want a sidewalk there because I'm not here in the winter, I can't maintain it. They said, you don't want a sidewalk, you don't need one. Consequently, I don't have a sidewalk. Secondly, in that red zone you have there, if you put that, if you put the sidewalk up to the curb, there's a couple of things. There's a manhole in there. There's also my irrigation system is all along that. I want to know who's going to move my irrigation system because I'm maintaining water and sprinkling that city property there, and I take care of it. I've been taking care of it for that for 47 years. Now I have 17 more feet to take care of.
talking about along the pond there?
No.
On the roadway?
This portion here.
I'm guessing this is yours right here.
Right. This portion here, I don't know if the city maintains this. I don't know
We
who
should,
maintains that.
yeah.
But this is what I take care of here. This is really nice, doesn't have any weeds, they don't seem to be spraying anything there, but that's beside the point. I just am against it, and I really don't think there's that many people going up and down there.
Originally, Matt, you're the one that brought this up.
We know it's a drag strip, but
Yeah, I heard from a lot of residents when I talked to you and your wife. I remember talking to you and your wife. You're making pizza that night when I was there. I talked to a lot of residents on that street, almost all of whom I talked to. And I remember you telling me you went to the city and said, you going to put a sidewalk in there? Because if you're going to do it now, because, I don't want you to come back and doing it later. And you and I had the conversation. So
Right.
when you came up, I wasn't surprised. But the residents on that street have vocalized the fact that they used to walk up and down that street every night. Now they don't feel safe doing it anymore, especially in the winter when it's dark out at 5:30 and they can't go up and down the street at all. And I could point out specific houses where that was the case, and I've received emails from multiple residents that have spoken up in favor of the sidewalk. Not so many in favor of the street lights, but in favor of the sidewalk. I also think is we went through and placed a development right next door to what was a dead-end road. In my opinion, we should have probably done this right off the bat. I think it helps connect the communities and bring them together to begin with. And so that's just based on the feedback I got. I had a lady, probably 4 or 5 houses on that side of the street, that morning had the police sitting in her driveway because she had called to complain about speeders flying up and down that road. And so they called her back and said, well, can we sit in your driveway? And she said, well, if I'm going to complain, I might as well give you my driveway to sit in it. So I know there are residents that are unhappy with everywhere the speed limit people are going. And as a way to, you've got a lot of families on that road still. And so they want to be able to have their kids go up and down the street and go to the park and do those kind of things and not feel secluded to their own properties. That's the feedback I received.
I mean, it does help get people to the park.
100%. And that park's not far, but if you don't feel safe going down the street,
Right.
you're not going to go.
So I guess I'm gonna ask the council then, if you do put this sidewalk in, I'm gonna ask you if you will move my sprinkler system onto the east side of that sidewalk.
Yes, yeah, we'd have to. I mean,
We have done that on other projects where the systems are disrupted. What we'll often do is allow the homeowner to choose the contractor because they usually have somebody that does the work for them. Do that and then submit the bill to the city, and the city pays the bill directly to the contractor.
I mean, in my opinion, we'd have to replace that, yeah.
Yeah, through that process,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
I know what happened when they put the road, they moved the road. When they did in front of our property, they tore that whole sprinkler system out and it cost me another $3,000 to replace it. And that was, I came over here and asked them about it and they said, well, tough luck.
Now, currently, Jason, the system is, the alignment is just what you got on the map, correct?
Of the trail, that's just me sketching it in there for talking
Correct,
purposes.
correct, but that's how you're planning it. You're planning.
That general
You're
alignment.
planning on this alignment right here.
I'll say those are the points we're connecting.
Right. So to me, it makes just way more sense to push it up closer to the road and avoid this separation here.
Again, we certainly could do that. The plowing can be troublesome for property owners when that's the case, because again, they'll push the 15 feet of the road snow onto the sidewalk.
On the sidewalk, but
instead
then
of
Marty's
clearing the 6
gonna have
inches.
to clear it anyway.
Oh, and if the city chooses to do that, which is tricky because now your mailboxes are all in the sidewalk as well.
Yeah.
And the post office won't let us install on the backside of the sidewalk, so you have a hazard, if you will, at every
That's
home.
I guess I didn't think about that.
Say that again?
Another way we often operate it, what we'll actually do often for safety as well, is we'll consider it a 5-foot walk, but we'll actually space it 2 feet behind the curb, and then we will pave or put a concrete median. So it'll actually be a 7-foot walk off of there.
Oh, but
That
it's a
gives a
separate-
little room for the mailboxes
Okay.
and a little more clearance
That
from
makes
the
sense.
drive lane
Sure.
of the vehicles.
Sure. That's a
That
solution.
increases the cost some though too, because now you're talking more concrete, more material.
Well, that just brings into the 8-foot trail where it works better then.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Anybody else?
Thank you, sir.
I'm not for it.
Okay.
You want my phone number on here?
Not necessarily, unless you want me to call you. Okay.
Name and address?
Cindy Christensen, 13032 Deerwood Lane. And I'm not really happy about this, but because of the traffic has gotten so bad, you know, it was expected because they crammed all those homes in that small area. And I see the little kids walking with their parents, you know, and it's not safe, and I'm thinking of the children, you know, it's going to be good for them, for the parents. The safety is the most important for these kids. But I'm not happy about the fact that in the wintertime, I have to be responsible for it when the city owns that easement. So I'm not happy about having to shovel it. I got enough shoveling as it is, and then plus if you don't get it shoveled, then you can get a fine, which my sister, that happened to her. So, so then I'm gonna have to get it paid probably to get done, because I don't think I can maintain that, because it's pretty brutal winter last winter. There's a lot of shoveling. So that I'm not happy about. I think on the other side of the road, because there's less homes, it would have been nice if it was over on that side and there's less driveways, for people to pass. And I know I can see where it butts up to the trail, to the sidewalk there, or the trail, the pathway there. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just the kids that I'm concerned about, and it is really busy. And a lot of people are, they think it's a racetrack, they come out of that little windy area and they just go, it's a straight shot. So it is getting dangerous.
If we can agree on this, we're going to take the liability of you shoveling out of it, as far as I'm
Okay,
concerned.
yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. And then I am definitely against the lights. I do not want any lights. It's overkill up on Pine View. I think it's ridiculous. But,
It is.
if someone wants to walk at night, get a good flashlight, I mean, come on. Yeah, I don't want a light shining in my house 24/7, so I'm totally against the light.
Heard that.
Save some money. Don't spend extra money on that.
Do we own more easement on the east side of the road than on the west side? Is that why?
Yeah, there's less space. That road is offset
That's why I
quite a bit
figured.
to the west,
Okay.
so it's tight for space. We can look at it. To be honest, we didn't analyze it or go through it.
What about the banks, the elevation grading?
It's a lot of hills there.
Is it flatter
Is it
on
a
the other
grading
side,
there?
or?
That
I'd
was
have
the
to
problem
look.
with Pine View.
We didn't explore it. We were just asked about
Okay.
the one road. We could certainly look at it and see if something would squeeze in there.
But what was the thought in putting it on the east side there? I mean, somebody at some point just said,
The
hey,
main
let's put it
one,
here.
well, the connection we're making is on the east side, but then
Oh, okay.
also
Yeah.
the benefit, there's not, I'll say there's limited regional benefit, if you will, because this doesn't connect anything to the east. You're dumped out onto 121. So this is mainly for the property owners along this section of road to get to the park. If we were to put it on the other side, albeit it might still be better situation, but they're all crossing the street to get to the trail and then crossing the street to get back to the other connection point.
Yeah, I still got
So
people that
this,
are gonna cross
this
State
way
River
just
Road though
has
still
less
too, so.
pedestrians using the roadway in any
Yeah.
fashion.
Either way, yeah, they're crossing the road, but you're saying that Deerwood's a bigger road to cross, so to speak. So.
Well, it certainly could. I mean, if it's on the east side, there's no road crossing. If it's on the west side, there's two
Well-
perpendicular crossings, and maybe that's still better than using the road for the entire length. It's,
But I still think like even people that live on the, let's say, it shifts and goes like on the south side, like they still have to cross a road to get to the sidewalk in order to navigate, even if this was going to be down on the east side here.
Yeah, I think
so I
people
mean, again, back to Matt's point, it's like 6 dozen one way, half dozen another. So
I have another question too. Like, you're not planning on, and I think I already talked to you, Zach, or somebody.
Yes.
Yeah. You're not planning on taking that trail going into the park reserve, are you? Like continuing on, because that would be a big mistake. I mean, it's so, it's too busy there for that. But I don't know if you plan on cutting over to go that, to the west to actually go in the parking lot there. If you're going to make another trail. over that
not
way.
in the foreseeable future.
Okay.
A lot of challenges there with grading and stormwater and other. I suspect there wouldn't be a trail along that road until that road is upgraded, and as far as I know, there's been no indication of a timeline for that.
So this
The
whole
parks-
thing got started because a lot of people were complaining about the road, the people with kids. Is that why?
To be honest, I'm not sure. I was
Safety
just
of
asked to
walking
provide
on
a
the road
price for this option.
changed with the Hayden Hills development.
The original was, at least one resident I know, he used to email me and call me as lights. He was concerned he wanted lights because of the traffic.
Yeah, because I don't care, I walk on the grass sometimes. I see cars coming and going, I'm on the grass. I'm like, I'm not going to walk in the road. So, and I can see where it's gotten really busy and people are going too fast. I don't know if you can slow them down somehow, but it's
We
crazy.
would like to know that answer. 'Cause I'm on Pineville, let me tell you.
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
just for clarity, in that neighborhood there is that access to Jonquil right there that brings them to a crosswalk that goes into the park, right?
That's
Yeah.
the Hayden Hills development.
And
That's a long ways
the
away,
Parks
though.
Commission, well, no, it's right, yeah, but the Parks Commission also talked about possibly running the sidewalk as part of the sidewalk budget they have from Jonquil up to Pineview.
That'd be a big budget.
That'd be it'd be a,
So,
Oh, that's,
Because it's
More power to them.
wetlands,
Really
it's,
big budget.
that's a, yeah, that whole stretch is pretty tricky to get a trail through there.
yeah.
name and address.
I'm Dave Danson, 12930 Deerwood. I'm the fourth house up. I'm one of the people that has complained about safety on that street. My wife and I walk it, if not daily, every other day, and we walk each direction. And I'm concerned that you might have the cart before the horse here, because my biggest complaint and concern for safety is access to the park. And the traffic that comes down Deerwood is at risk, but it's a fraction of the risk that we experience when we cross over 121 and walk down on the shoulder of that road to get to the parkway for access. You're going to get somebody killed there, and you're not going to get them killed on 121. And there are no turn lanes. I mean, we got a county problem here. It's not a city problem. But until that safety issue is resolved over there on 121, you're not going to accomplish very much here with this sidewalk from safety. It is dangerous, and I walk at sunset when the cars are coming on with their lights. I'm pretty sure those people aren't seeing us walking on that street. There is risk, and they are driving fast. Not all of them. I mean, it's like everything else. You got the exceptions.
Yeah.
But as far as the sidewalk goes, my preference would be that it butts up to the curb, because you got to have nothing but a weed patch. It's already a weed patch on a lot of lots because it's terrible soil in there and it's hot and sandy. You can't grow grass out there. So if you put a curb with a gap to the, I mean, you put a sidewalk with a grass area going out to the curb, it's just going to be weeds.
So your concern is just simply the crossing of 121?
Well, that is my number one concern. And I have tried contacting everybody under the sun, and everybody passes the buck, and they won't
Right.
do anything until somebody gets killed. And I hope it's not my wife or I that get killed out there, because we walk it almost every day, and it's brutally dangerous, especially when the sun is shining in somebody's eyes, you know, and something like that. So that I am more concerned about that by far than I am about the sidewalk. But if the sidewalk goes in, I'm not there to maintain it in the wintertime. I'm with you. I'm gone in the winter from November until April. So it will not be shoveled when I'm gone. It's just not going to happen.
I have a question for you. Do your neighbors to the west of this road, do they have mailboxes on their side of the road, or do they have to cross the road to grab their mail?
My neighbors to the west, we have mailboxes on both sides
Both
of the road.
sides of the road? Okay.
Yeah. I prefer you put the sidewalk over there, because you only got 5 property owners over there, but I understand.
I was just
why
thinking,
it's-
like, your comment to pushing it right to the curb, like, if they have to cross the road, like, I'd rather than just pushing the curb on their side. If they don't have mailboxes over there, it's something
Yeah.
that's I have to worry about. But
No, it's kind of strange. We have mailboxes on both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is kind of weird.
yeah.
I don't know how the carriers keep it straight, because you got to, you know.
It's a flat road, so they're
That's their
able
problem,
to,
but-
unlike Pineview where you have
Well,
the,
they must have, whatever the routes are, they must be going both
Yeah,
directions.
Yeah.
probably
30 mile
because
an
it
hour.
works. And
Yeah.
when it was a dead end at the golf course, they had to turn around.
they had to turn
anyway.
around there and, or go through
Is
the
there going
neighborhood,
to be an
come through.
assessment for the property owners for the cost of this?
No.
No?
No.
Okay. Okay. I don't have anything else, but you know, nobody will talk to us about safety on that access to the park. And it's frustrating. Am I supposed to say-
Nobody wants to take on the couple $1 million bid.
Well, you know,
Bill to.
You know, if they're willing to spend, all I'm asking for is that they go, you know, you talk about doing it the right way, but there's also a safe way. If it's 10 years to do it right and 2 people get killed, is that the safe way? When all they have to do is, there's a driveway right across the street from Deerwood going into the park. And all they gotta do is run some gravel. We're not asking for blacktop, but give us some kind of a class 5 pathway to get over to that parking lot. And it's a flat surface. You can take a Bobcat out there and do it. I don't know what the big deal is, but you got equipment, just run a Bobcat and dump some class 5, and you got a safer path than we got walking on that darn road out there today. It doesn't have to be blacktop to get over there. Maybe for some yuppies it is, but I come from the country. Just class 5 is fine.
Yes, it is.
beaten path in the grass.
Yeah, well, that's the other option. Just give us a path in the grass to get out where that driveway is and run a mower. That's good enough. That's what they did off of Jonquil for how many years to get over there? They had, somebody was going out there with a string trimmer and knocking the
Yeah,
grass.
blame it on the deer.
Maybe I shouldn't tell you this, but I do go out and whack the brush out. I was trying to encourage people to walk through there, but nobody would buy into it. So.
How do you feel, if the sidewalk went ahead, how do you feel about the lights?
I'm kind of ambivalent about the lights. I don't care. I don't have an opinion on the lights. You know, it is, from a security standpoint, it is blacker than all get out there, and you don't know when somebody's out there. But I don't know that if somebody has it in their head they're gonna do something, the lights are gonna stop them anyway, so I don't think it makes much difference. And light pollution is a concern. It is kind of almost country out there right now. It's been country forever, and people that have
Maintain
been
the
there all
feel,
time are
yeah.
used to that.
And you say letters, other than the gentleman, letters
I
went out to
confirm
everybody.
that there was a letter sent to that address. I have the mail label.
Well,
in front of me.
but,
Doesn't mean it's got delivered. I can't
yeah.
can't focus on that one, but I can
We
say
paid
that it
for a
was
letter to get sent.
Yep, I did send a letter out. I looked at the billing labels that I did send out. So.
Well, there's 13 homes on the east side, and we've heard from 40% of them. We know their feeling on the deal. I'm not against the trail by no means. I'd ask for some numbers on a trail versus a concrete sidewalk.
There is a lot of traffic. I think when the development was put in, the impression was people would go down Jonquil and go across that safety crossing and everything over there. But it's amazing the number of people that come down Deerwood to get to that park.
It's
Walking.
straight, that's why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Walking, biking, running,
Yeah.
pushing
Yeah.
strollers, I mean, you name it. There's a lot of activity out there on that street. Where did this go?
Right here. Thank you.
There were 15 letters sent out.
Yeah.
On that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
come on up.
Come on up.
We beat
You're a
this one up.
resident.
Name and
It
address.
might be another 10%.
Kevin Astrup, 13040 Deerwood Lane. Myself and my wife, obviously Deerwood is a big concern when it comes to safety. Like all the other residents, you know, there is a lot of foot traffic on that road currently. We are in favor of the sidewalk. My only concern is I'm not a big fan of the trail. I much rather prefer a 5-foot sidewalk, concrete, than an actual 8-foot trail. Just because of how far it's going to go into the actual properties, and then obviously tree management, removal, all that kind of stuff. I think with that, my personal preference would be to butt it up to the sidewalk,
The curb?
or to the curb,
Okay.
excuse me. I think that would minimize the impact into the actual yards, along with, I think we answered the question about the irrigation system too. There's another question of mine, but that got answered already. But lighting, kind of go either way on it, take it or leave it. But mainly the sidewalk and the impact of the yards and the trees is our big concern.
So what do you do with the snow then when it's butted up to the curb? Like, again, it comes back to the debate of who's responsible at that point.
Yeah.
Like,
And obviously it is an older community, so that would be a responsibility on the city to actually manage that snow come wintertime. I mean, as you've heard, a lot of the residents on that road are snowbirds during the wintertime. So that is a concern of the city when it comes to equipment,
Yeah.
more hours, more labor, all that kind of stuff.
so I'm just, my wheels are turning, and so like sidewalk, or the mailboxes then become an issue at that point, because if Marty's
Yep.
got to take care of it, he's going to be doing this. So is there opposition then to move those mailboxes to the other side of the road if the post office does that?
I mean, I have no issue with that.
I doubt you're gonna get the post office.
That's what I'm saying, is like, that it's another avenue that you have to
I also,
explore.
I do want to
but-
clarify one point. So the sidewalks, like in the historic village where it does butt up to the curb,
Yeah.
the homeowner is still responsible for that curb, that sidewalk, whether it's butted up to the road or
Yep.
if it's
Yeah.
in the roadway. So I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but either which way, if it's at the curb
I
or
think
it's a few feet in, it's going to be part
How
of
we
the homeowner's
classify it
responsibility.
is, like Jason said, how we classify it is whether they're responsible.
If
or
you
not.
do it, if you do it a trail and you do 8 feet wide or whatever, then it would be
Well,
on the.
now I'm confused. I always thought the pavement did define whether it's a trail or not. and
I
You're
don't
saying
know how the
that's not.
code's written.
Okay.
But that, it is the designation, and to be honest, I don't even know where it's formally designated, one versus the other. But if it's considered a trailway, it's different than a sidewalk. So that would be likely the distinguishing.
But but
characteristic.
Jason says he has a solution for, if we go 8 feet wide or 7 feet wide, he has a solution for the mailboxes. And we can make it work, so, in my opinion.
Probably take more trees that way, or
No,
possibly.
Well, not if.
But, I mean, there, and
Not if we
again,
butt it right up to the curb. What's this distance right here?
It varies, I think, from about 3 to 5 or 6.
Okay, so
So we're about-
automatically you're saving 3 to 5 feet right
We're
off the
about
bat.
10 feet back. Some of the obstacles might have even been on the roadside. Again, we did this just a preliminary to get numbers
No.
for discussion, so we would certainly send out surveyors and find out where all of this is and identify true impacts.
I think you got enough concerns and enough to move forward with, like, you know, this is the plan that's going to best suit with the concerns that everybody has, so.
So
Yeah.
today's meeting is just to authorize us to move forward with getting plans, official plans drawn out,
Official
correct?
plans, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And we can even.
What's
I
the
mean, if you
cost on
just-
that?
We need comparable, just comparing it to the Pine View project, I think it was about $20,000. That would be all the way through construction, not just for the plans. I think I might have put.
Indirect cost is at 40 according to the packet.
Oh, okay, so it was maybe 20 for the design stage. It is listed in your packet, I just don't remember. How
It
was 40
is
total.
estimated cost
It was
associated with
a-
plan
yeah,
preparation
there
is
is
20,000.
So that would have, yeah.
Yeah.
And again, we can refine it. I didn't know what the scope would be
Yeah.
at the time of the meeting. I mean, we could also just do enough to look at options. If you want a trail option, if you want to tight the curb, do you want
It
to see
almost
what it
seems
would be
like
on the
we-
other side? Which
Yeah, it almost
probably
seems like
isn't
we almost
likely.
need another set of preliminary
I think
thoughts.
so.
Will this qualify for a safe route to school?
Unfortunately not.
Because there is a bus stop along the way. They don't stop at each home. So right now, kids are walking on the street to get to the bus.
Yeah, at least, I mean, we can revisit it with them. We haven't spoke with the Anoka Transportation Group in a couple of years now, but when I went through it prior, even things closer to the school weren't eligible.
Sure.
I mean, we were talking over on Balsam and other opportunities,
things
and
have
he couldn't
changed.
find any that he thought would qualify, so. We were hopeful too. We thought we'd be able to do a whole bunch of projects under safe routes, but haven't had any eligible.
A mini
Thank you.
asphalt track paver is available in 6 or 5 foot widths.
But finding a contractor to do them that
Yeah,
will take
Thanks,
a
guys.
job
who
like
has
this
it,
is-
yeah, or
that's
the
hard.
ability to acquire one.
A lot of times.
All we have to do is make a phone call.
Well, a lot of times they get it cheaper that they actually bring a bigger paver and then they eat the cost for the extra materials. They'll say, we're gonna put it in at 10.6 because we have our big paver and we'll only pay them for 8. And it's still cheaper for them because they can't find guys with the small ones to come and do it, so.
And if
Maybe
we-
we will find it. It's possible, and small scope jobs, instead of having it pieced down to large projects, sometimes makes that easier, so.
Yeah.
We can try it that way, or we could do an alternate for the two
Maybe
and weigh
we
the
should
cost
buy
that way.
It almost
You start a business, Scott.
seems like, you know, we
And
need
I
to
need more. I want
kind
less.
of reshuffle things and take another look.
But would that be covered under our 20,000 that we're approving?
Well, I think the general consensus is either way, we're gonna
Yeah.
put something there, correct?
Yeah.
So no?
I guess it depends on what the plan
Well,
looks like, so.
I think I'm gonna wanna talk to all those homeowners, because I'm hearing something I didn't expect.
Well,
If
clearly,
I-
40% of them don't want it, but.
Right.
Another option, if we didn't get sufficient input tonight, we could hold the neighborhood meeting and make another
That would be a good
opportunity
deal.
to speak
Yeah.
with the larger group. And at that time, we could just run through some of the options if there would be a preference or
Oh.
other. I mean, that would be another approach, just to get
15 more letters.
Fine with me, I already got them ready to go.
Okay.
I don't know if it matters as far as design-wise goes, but I'm also hearing lights are out. That's what I'm hearing.
If you're gonna do the hearing with the
we
neighborhood,
already-
I guess
we
you could
already
ask
had
that question
pricing.
then
You could
too.
ask that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
I guess
I think
that I would go that route.
I haven't heard from anyone that's excited about the lights. So.
Yeah.
No, I
Yeah.
think that the lights came up earlier before we were talking about a sidewalk.
Correct. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And so that's why I'm thinking too, well, maybe the sidewalk mitigates
It
the need
mitigates
for the
them.
lights.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That's for me.
So go
Well, it
with.
seems to me like, you know, because we've got enough variables in the discussion here that I don't know that we're ready to move ahead with plans and specs because we haven't really defined what you're planning.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like putting together some of those options, trail versus how wide versus sidewalk, would be the next step, and then to have the neighborhood meeting to really get a sense of, you know,
Which way they want to go.
are we doing the right thing here?
Yeah.
It seemed like we were, and now we're hearing that maybe that we're not, so.
Why don't we come up with a few? We'll keep this as an option. We'll look at another one with concrete back of curb. We'll look at another one with bituminous back of curb, and we'll see if we can do a varied width on there and get different pricing. Have some options, so when we go to the meeting, we can point to them and see.
Stickers on the maps.
And we'll go out, we'll do some field investigation. We won't kick off a full survey because then it's expensive, but we'll send somebody out just to verify what we think for actual tree impacts, because that will be a big one.
I like
And we can
that.
say with confidence, trees will be safe or likely impacted.
My guess is, as far as the west side goes, you'll just take a look at that and rule it out. Or rule it in.
Yeah, I mean, unless we want to
Is
take
it-
easement on it, which I don't.
Yeah, we'd have to get additional easements on that side.
yeah,
Right.
that takes care of that.
Well, that's why I asked that earlier. Was
I
noticed
suspect
there's
it's
a
physically not.
yeah.
Why we went to the east
No,
side of the road.
In 6 months worth of work.
That's, okay, I thought
When we
there
show
was
the
a little bit
maps,
of
can we
space
show
there.
them properly oriented next time, please? So north-south roads are oriented up and down. Makes the
North-south?
conversation a little bit easier to have.
All right, sorry about that.
Thank you.
It got a little bit bigger this way, so I had to rotate.
I appreciate that, but
Engineers.
Yeah, engineers.
So,
Okay.
what we need tonight is a motion, so we either need to table it or deny it, or, because we have it on the agenda as an action.
We're gonna
item,
table
so-
it for
Yeah,
now.
why don't
I'll
we-
make a motion that we table it.
Okay.
does that mean more options? Is that what that means by
Yeah.
tabling it?
Table it with direction
More
to
research to do.
Okay.
More information.
with more information.
Okay.
So.
I just want to make sure I understood the term properly. Thank
Need
you.
a second.
Hey, if you put it on our side of the street, you also gotta remember that about 15 feet from that curve is our water shut-off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that should be right on the property line, so that will almost certainly be on the backside. But we would look at it.
With equipment, they don't know. You're gonna rip out a bunch of them.
Oh, those are all located prior, but yes, that's certainly more. Another one for the resident meeting is the irrigation lines, because that is a common one. So if we have input on that, we can budget appropriately for it, because it is an additional cost for each. project that has that.
Second, okay. So, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say no. We are tabled. Okay. Oh, my machine went to sleep. Where are we at?
We are on item O.
Fire department,
Oh, item O.
You got an hour?
Yeah, so we will table it, and we will have a neighborhood meeting, come back.
Thank you guys for coming out.
Thank you for coming
Thank
out.
you. Yeah.
Thanks for listening to us.
Yeah.
No, you're good. I don't think he has anything other than words.
Mayor, members of the city council, we have Chief Hendrickson, and then also Assistant Chief Ostrup here to go through item O. Anyway.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. Before you tonight, I have a request to reappropriate some 2022 CIP dollars. This was a request prior to my employment here at Dayton, evidently to have or add an additional air compressor here at Station 2. Throughout the last year, I've conducted some equipment assessments, obviously to include the tanker and some others, and found that I don't really believe there's a need for an additional self-contained breathing apparatus here. We have the fixed one at Station 1, and we also have the mobile one that's in our Utility 21. So that is actually the best of both worlds in the fact that we have a fixed facility, and then we also have the mobile facility to fill our self-contained breathing apparatus. What I have seen in the 11 months that I've been here is we have a dire need to gain access to the 10 or so miles within the Three Rivers District Park of trails. I've gotten called in numerous ones, a couple. I've got my truck stuck on a snowmobile trail trying to get an individual that ran into a tree. I know when I first arrived last July, I had a broken arm on a horse trail across from the Daytona golf course where it wasn't accessible necessarily. We were able to get my truck back there a little bit off-road, and I know law enforcement's had some issues where we just don't have the accessibility to get down the trails. So the request is to purchase repurpose the dollars that were allocated for the SCBA in 2022 to purchase a UTV and provide some other additional opportunities, such as if we have grass fires back in these areas. Again, we don't have a piece of apparatus that can get back there. Excuse me. And then also this provides us the ability to transport that patient on the back of the UTV out of the area. If it happens to be in the middle of a farm field or wherever, or again, our current apparatus don't have us an opportunity to get there. I stand for questions.
First question. How many grass fire rigs do we have that can handle a grass fire now?
We technically have 2 grass rigs, but they're really a combination. There are rescues as well.
Okay.
The problem with those is we're looking at changing what that looks like in the future. Right now, there's $400,000 in 2026 to replace Rescue 11. Rescue 11 and Rescue 21 are a combination rescues/grass trucks. The problem is they're too large and they get stuck. They're dualies. So if you can imagine trying to get off the road and not get stuck in those with all the weight. So we're looking at the moment, looking at reducing probably the request of $400 for the CIP, probably maybe down to somewhere in the neighborhood of about $200,000, because the idea would be to move into possibly like a Suburban or an Expedition to respond to medicals, and then move to strictly a grass rig, which I have no ideas on exact numbers, but I'm going to say maybe with the chassis and the skid that we would need is maybe around $100,000 to $120,000. So we'd probably be in that neighborhood of a 200, so reduce that dollar of this, the request of the CIP for that replacement of that vehicle.
And that would remove both of those?
We would just start with Rescue 11, being that one's
Okay.
in
The oldest.
the oldest of the 2. Over time, as Rescue 21 would need to be replaced, we'd move in that same direction. It just gives us a little bit more ability, freedom, and less cost. And right now, I understand why they did it back in the day, just to confines of dollars, and then having 2 types of response apparatus as one. But the problem is that it doesn't really fit the need when we're going off-road with that large of a vehicle, if you can imagine.
The weight is the disadvantage there. It's just the water and then all the stuff we put on those rigs.
Well, you're gonna have this UTV wouldn't have water on it.
No, it would.
will.
It would still
Yeah.
have. It'd probably have about
85 gallons
85 gallons.
versus what do we got on the 300 that we try to carry around in the back?
So put a smaller tank on the other one. Carry less weight.
Well,
Yeah, the 2 we have now are 4-wheel drive, correct?
Yeah, they are, but they don't make the. Let's move to the snow time. I can't move those on a snowmobile trail or
Correct. No,
down
yeah.
in that.
Right.
Yeah, the only way that would work is with tracks on it. Yeah.
Correct.
Right. Another question would be, have we purchased a radio for every firefighter yet at this stage?
The 10 radios, I actually got notification today. They are in, so I just need to pick them up. So
Okay.
we will have,
So you did get your funding for that somewhere?
yes, somewhere.
I think you're looking at it.
Council approval.
So,
yeah.
That was council approval.
Okay.
That's where
does the park provide any funding for this coverage?
Yeah.
It just kind of irks me a little bit.
Agreed. So we put together a committee. So Kevin and Travis and a couple others, Mark Franklin and Jeff Westendorf, they did reach out to a couple.
I
Travis,
did. Yep. And I basically got that there are grants available for that funding, and there are no. So it was very abrupt
Are
shoot
those
down.
reasonable grants? Something that would
Don't
we
know.
have a-
I asked for information from them, and I never got an email reply on it. So I basically just thought they just shut the door on me when I asked that
and
question.
we're-
So.
it's like, this may sound crass, but it's state statute that we cover them, or what requires us to cover their boundary?
Yeah, it's within the city proper, if you
Yeah,
will,
that's
in that capacity. So
So the fact that
I
they
had
don't
the
have
same
to pay
thing.
taxes doesn't.
Yeah.
They have their own police that they.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
they're not
they have their
responding.
own.
they do have their own police, correct? But the time that I got stuck in the snowmobile trail, we ended up pulling one of their squads out of the same nearby as well.
Yeah.
So you're saying that you believe this will reduce a future expense?
This will help fill that need with the numerous calls that we've had where, myself and I'm sure Chief Inga could probably respond to some of the stuff that I haven't been on, but we had a snowmobile accident. I know this last year required the use of medical attention immediately because of a significant bleed, and trying to gain access to them is fairly significantly difficult, especially more so in the wintertime than in the summertime. But we do have, I know last fall or last summer, we had a lost child or somewhere, a bike accident on the trail, and we had to walk the trail. There was no real great access to it. I also am not all that familiar, but I believe in Three Rivers there is a couple of camping cabins or something to that effect that we don't have access to if we need to get there more quickly than what my pickup truck or in that capacity to get.
Well, where them cabins are, there's a road going right to them. If the gate's not locked.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the road is overgrown typically, so it's hard to get fire suppression back there.
Is this really what we're talking about? Is rescue, not necessarily fire suppression? How many grass fires do we have?
Yeah, I mean, we've set it up to where it can be multifaceted. It can be multifaceted. So primarily, the biggest use is going to be for rescue. So broken legs on trails, snowmobiles, middle of the farm field, whatever the case may be. And then the secondary use is if we do get grass fires where we're not accessible to. So that's just an added use that we can use it for.
How long expensive we had a grass fire?
Month.
We had one
When was
this
the
year already,
last
didn't
one
we?
we
You
had?
left mid-council
I
for
left
one.
city council.
Yeah.
to do one
Yeah, we've had a
weeks
couple
ago,
this
about a
year
month
already.
ago.
For a grass fire?
Yes. And actually, that particular grass fire, we got one
stuck.
of the rescues stuck.
Yep.
Okay.
So in prep for this, the one question I did ask Zach, and I'm going to ask him again because I know the answer, but is there anything if we don't need the item we thought we were going to buy with this? If we look at what else the city needs, is there anything else the city needs that will add more value to the city than this? If we were to spend the $70,000,
Not that I'm aware of at this time. I've had numerous conversations with Chief Hendrickson over these exact instances. The first one was like within a week or 2 weeks of him being here with the broken collarbone or broken arm out in the middle of the field of the horse riding, and he was not able to get there. He got stuck going there. And I did hear of multiple snowmobile accidents this year that would have been useful to have this tool. I do know that this tool would be utilized and is utilized amongst other departments that are within the community of the metro area that have UTVs to be able to provide this kind of service. And we just don't have that.
Do other ones have? Who around us has UTVs?
Quite a few of
Oh,
us.
yeah.
I think Rogers does.
Rogers does, I
Rogers
believe.
With that
Road
issue you were
does.
talking about, now the park, I know they have four-wheelers.
I don't think
Why
they
are you
control
parking?
off of it.
They probably have them. The park has.
Middle of the night, you will not get them out here. Their maintenance guys have the deals. I know the park police have snowmobiles, but they're stored down
Okay.
in Plymouth, maybe.
Okay.
So it's just like Hennepin County Water Patrol is responsible for all our waterways. Any snowmobile accidents, by state statute, the county's supposed to write all our snowmobile accidents, but their resources are all geared and stored down in, they're
You talking Medina?
Yeah, down in Spring Park. So anytime we get an accident, something like that, they're coming from Spring Park with them. So I was actually going to put this into my CIP for next year.
Oh, so you can cover half of it? Is that what you're saying?
So yeah, I was going to actually put it in my CIP just because the amount of trails that we're gaining especially in like Cloquet Overlook Park, the trail that we have now that goes behind Pineview to Vinewood, that a vehicle can't get down, a UTV would be able to get down it. So if we have a rescue back there, we actually need something to get back
What
there.
about storage? Where are you going to keep this thing? It has a trailer too, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah, it does have a trailer. So the belief is that we can get it in the white garage back here. That's not currently being used for anything at the moment.
okay.
I have a couple of comments, and I get the need. I think it's, makes sense for all the reasons that you've stated. Process-wise, I don't like flipping money. We approve money for one use, and I understand that, you're saying that you kind of got that covered, and so you don't really need that. It doesn't, in my mind, make those funds automatically available to just flip to something else. And maybe I'm the only one that thinks that way, but
That's why I asked Zach the question when I met with him this week. Yep.
my past, we never got to do that with capital equipment. You get approved for something, and then you go back to the well for something else. So this is essentially an unbudgeted need, and it bothers me too that it's not on the CIP. So we weren't even thinking about it. And then we went ahead and had a committee within the fire department to spec the thing out without any discussion here at all, and that bothers me. The need is there, I get it. I just think that the process is a little bit upside down.
I appreciate the fact that he doesn't need the other piece of equipment that was budgeted for it. I'm hoping that someday we can all understand that that is what's going to happen down the road, that CIP list, well, there's a lot of wish list items on there that, hey, we don't need this. So I appreciate that fact. And I understand the safety aspect of it's certainly going to be easier driving a side-by-side out on one of the park trails than it is a pickup truck. I get that. I mean, I have one, so I don't have a $65,000 one, but
Want to join the fire department? Bring the UTV with you?
I'd never pass it.
Try.
Sorry, can't make it. Can't run from here to the street.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, need a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Travis, Matt, any more discussion on this? I guess I do want to bolster Dave's comments that, we do budget things, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the money should just get spent. The comment that, well, what else would we spend it on, to me is not relevant. You should spend money on what you need, and I mean, this sounds like a need.
Well, that's why I asked the question too. So there's something else that we need that was already on the list that we had maybe put aside for the previous thing that we should be considering in place of it, which is why I'd asked. It wasn't more of like
stuff like this. We can probably find money somewhere if we need it. I mean, like the radios we did.
Yeah.
I get. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and again, my concern isn't the need. The need sounds legitimate. It's just, sort of not on a plan anywhere, and here we are.
Actually, I don't think it was anywhere on the CIP.
Mayor and members of council, I guess I just want to ask a process question because, to your point, your question or concern, Councilmember Lachant, when I look at these things, and granted, I wasn't a part of making this SCBA thing, so I just want to better understand the process for future. You want this brought, say, later in the year or during CIP questions. So
during the budgeting process.
The budgeting process and that kind of, and that's all I need to know. Like I said, I looked at this and places I've been before, we've been able to make the request and repurpose the dollars. That doesn't mean that the dollars would be given, but being that they were allocated for something within the organization, I had the ability to make that request. So that just confirms that for me, so thank you.
I want to confirm with Chief Henry, it was not to try to say that we needed to spend the money right away. It was
No.
The SCBA piece of equipment was no longer a need, and we had already budgeted and allocated levy dollars for it. If we put it back on the levy again this year, or I should say not back on the levy, back on the CIP document, it would have looked to me like we needed to levy for that again, and we would have been double levying for dollars. And so I'm trying to eliminate the fact of looking at it as it looks like we're going to spending the money
Well,
twice.
It would
We're
have
just spending-
accumulated the fund, right? And then we would have
Yes,
adjusted the
yep.
levy accordingly. So-
Correct. But like I
Not-
said, it was
and again,
a
it-
process thing, and
yeah.
that's fine. But it's good for us to know as well, moving forward, that when these things come up, because this one is completely previous to Chief Hendrickson's time here in 2022.
Oh, the pump.
Yeah, those
Yeah.
SCBA.
Yeah,
I get
building
that.
the CIP
Yeah,
on that,
well
yeah.
before his time here, and so he would have no idea that,
Yep.
that it was even there until we talked about it.
Yep. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. And if there are no objections, we will be adjourned.
45 minutes early.
And we are adjourned.